Good evening, everyone. We're just here. We're going to talk about, it's me and my co-host Sophia tonight. A little last minute, but I thought we'd just get together and review this new video from Star Talk, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson in company.
Can't hear you, Scott.
Oh, good.
Can't hear you, Scott.
Check 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, so we're just going to do a little interview. Reaction to the interview on Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson interviewing Donald Hoffman. Like I said, he's an idealist. He's trying to approach it from his interface theory of perception, which is a scientific model, not a philosophical model. And so it's a pretty interesting video. I haven't seen it all the way. I've kind of just thumbed through it. So this is like a reaction. Sophia, you didn't see this video yet either, have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay, awesome. So this will be a real live reaction to this video. And folks in the live chat, you can follow right along. We're not going to really have guests on to panel up unless we have time, maybe after the video or something, if time allows for it. But in the meantime, I think we ought to get right into it and see what these guys are talking about. So here we go. Make sure it's turned up. And I will have to pause it from time to time because I don't want to kill the stream, you know. So we'll do some commentary every so often for that reason.
Today, we're going to be exploring the nature of reality.
Oh,
Really? Hold on, let me go on the screen.
Damn, why you have to laugh like that?
Right? Why can't, man, what is going on, man? Hold on. All right, there we go. Now we'll be able to run this back. Here we go.
Mathematics. This may not be the only.
We're going to talk about the limits to our perception, the role of consciousness, and the nature of reality itself.
You're really buying a car online on AutoTrader?
Really? And I'm getting it from a local dealer.
Can you really be that picky with your search?
Really?
You can really buy the car completely online?
Really? We're really getting the car at the dealership now? Really? Buy your car online on AutoTrader. Really?
Really?
Yes, Neil, time to bring in our guest. This one's going to go deep, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's see where it takes us. We've got Professor Donald Hoffman. Donald, welcome to Star Talk.
Thank you very much, Neil. Good to be with you, all of you.
Yeah, you're Professor Emeritus. You're not that old. In the Department of Cognitive Sciences, UC Irvine, right there in Irvine, California. You're obviously a cognitive neuroscience scientist and an author. I have most recently here, and if you have another book, let me know, The Case Against Reality.
Nice.
Oh, shots fired.
Let me tell you, I'm an expert in that.
Shots fired. How evolution hid the truth from our eyes.
Love it.
Ooh.
I love it.
All right. So what are you saying? We don't really see the full picture. I mean, I agree with you. Who would disagree with that? But you're bringing in evolution to blame for this. So could you catch us up on what you mean by that?
That's right. So the standard view is that evolution shapes organisms to be fit. And surely to be fit, we should see the world pretty accurately, right? You want to see a cliff. If there's a cliff and not fall off, you want to see what is a mate and so forth. So
just to be clear, when you say fit, you don't mean it like in a fitness center.
No.
Right. It's not a crunch gym thing.
It's not crunch.
Right.
Please remind us what evolutionarily, what the word fit means.
That's right. So in Darwin's theory, fitness really means the chance that you're going to have offspring successfully. So fitness is really one thing. What's the probability that you will survive long enough to raise your offspring successfully. That's what.
Wow.
Okay.
Clearly, Darwin had no children. Because he went, no, they will kill you. And I don't mean like murder. I mean just having them will kill you.
That dude's funny, man. I like Chuck Nice. He's a comedian and an actor. So he brings a lot of personality to the show. And I like that. He kind of keeps things really light, and fun. Because a lot of this stuff is about to go really deep and very philosophical and very scientific. And, we need a Chuck Nice to kind of break it up.
Okay, so we're trained to not run off the cliff, to run the opposite direction of lions.
Right.
What else are we really good at?
Well, avoiding poisons and things like that, and finding right mates. So we don't try to mate with trees or rocks or things like that. So we
speak for yourself there, Don. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
See, there are
I had to do that.
You did,
though.
and so many people have conjured up an image
Right.
of a drunken Saturday night.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, they do have sex dolls, and there's a lot of people falling in love with their chatbots. So he might have a point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's funny.
Don, continue.
Right. So the standard view, not only among people who are, sort of just partially acquainted with evolutionary theory, but for people who are deeply acquainted with the theory, is to assume that Darwin's theory entails that most of the time we see reality as it is. Of course, not all of the time. There are illusions and so forth. But the idea would be, if you're going to be fit in Darwin's sense of being reproductively, successful, then you need to see reality as it is. And what I have done with some colleagues, Chetan Prakash, Manish Singh, and others, is to look at the mathematics of evolution. It turns out Darwin wasn't a mathematician, but a century after he published his theory, mathematicians turned it into mathematics, and it's called evolutionary game theory. John Maynard Smith and others worked on this. So we can now ask specific mathematical questions of Darwin's theory. And the answer when we look at the mathematics is that the probability is zero, that any organism has ever been shaped at any time to see any aspect of objective reality as it is. It's just precisely zero. I didn't expect that when I went into it. I expected to have the answer be that we saw reality some of the time, but maybe not as often as we thought we would. Steven Pinker has published a paper on that idea. He has some good arguments for why, there are pressures from evolution not to see reality as it is. So Pinker's already been there, and I know he's talked with you before. And so what I was surprised, though, that when we looked at the mathematics, the answer was the probability is zero.
Yeah. So now we have to back up a bit.
Yeah.
What do you mean by reality?
Yeah.
If you're going to assign a zero to it, I want to know what it is you just zeroed out.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good question. What are we even talking about when we talk about reality? Like, because if a fucking lion eats you, I mean, that's real to me. Like, you can't just say that's not real, right? Like, you got to take it serious enough to be real. Or is he talking about reality in some other way? Like, is he talking about fundamental reality, or is he talking about just reality? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess we'll have to see where he's going.
Yeah. Let's see.
So because mathematically, reality would have to have a value if it equals zero.
If at some point you're going to give it a zero,
Right.
And it seems to me the teeth on that lion is pretty reality looking.
Right.
The cliff ledge feels pretty real to me.
It does. The interesting thing about the mathematics is you don't have to specify what reality is for the mathematics to still give you the theorem. So I don't have to assume what reality is. I can just look at the structure of evolutionary theory and say, suppose there is some reality out there, and there are these so-called fitness payoff functions. So Darwin talks about payoffs, and the payoffs really are effectively, if I have an organism like a lion in a particular state, like it's hungry, and it has some actions to take, and one of them might be eating a leopard or eating an antelope, something like that,
eating you,
or eating you, then that for that lion, that's a very good payoff, right? But if it's looking to be to eat and is tries for a rock, it's going to have a very poor payoff. And so you can have these abstract payoff functions. And so we don't have to know what reality is. We can just look at the property of these payoff functions, and we can ask, whatever reality is, what's the probability that a payoff function would tell you about that reality?
Okay, I still don't know what you're talking about. So I don't mind representing these forces that operate on your evolution, on your fitness, on your survival. I have no problems abstracting those to mathematical elements. But I need you to tell me that the lion that is chasing me isn't real. And you're not saying that.
Oh, I'm going to get there.
Damn.
That's the line.
That's the line.
Get to me before the lion does.
Well, then let me just dovetail that real quick. Is it possible then that the probabilities don't mean anything? If the fact that they come out to zero, but yet the lion can still eat you, and I mean, that's pretty real to you. I mean, is it very possible that although the probability, equates to zero, that maybe that's a particular probability that has no value to us?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, what does he still mean by real here? Like, because a lion killing you, that's real enough for me, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, that's the question. Like,
I'm pretty sure even Donald Hoffman would avoid a lion.
Right. And Stephen G says, well, we create reality by the qualia by which we perceive things. Okay. Well, maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about it within your interface. Like your interface is limited to how much qualia you have or something like that. So it's real to that. Maybe. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I wouldn't say we create reality though either necessarily.
Right.
We can only perceive it as far as our interface allows it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to put it. I guess that's kind of what I was trying to say. Okay. Well, let's see what he says here.
It's in the nature of scientific theories just to see what they say, right? And all I'm doing is saying, this is what Darwin's theory says when we mathematize it. And Darwin's theory says there are these things called payoffs, right? If you pick an organism like the lion, its state, hungry or wanting to mate, and an action like feeding, fighting, fleeing, or mating, and then I'll give you a number for how good that was. How that's what the payoff functions are. And whether or not you like Darwin's theory, I'm just saying this is what the mathematics of Darwin's theory says. And when you look at that mathematics, then it says the payoff functions do not have information about reality. Almost surely. When I say almost surely, that means 100% of the time, basically.
So maybe I'm going to reword what I think you're actually saying, and you tell me if I'm completely off the point. What you're saying is it doesn't matter whether it's real in any objective sense. All that matters is whether the organism responds in a way that is in the interest of its own survival.
That's exactly right, Neil.
Okay,
so that's okay.
I think that's pretty, reasonable and feasible to accept.
Right. So it doesn't matter to me that it's real.
Right.
Is a different statement from saying it isn't real.
Well, so what I would say is that what Darwin's theory tells us is that we were shaped not to have a window on the world, but to have a VR headset that lets us play the game of life. That's the simple bottom line. So most of us think we were shaped with senses that give us a mostly true depiction, a true window on reality. And what Darwin says is basically, no, you have a VR headset that lets you play the game of life where the winning strategy is offspring, how many offspring you have. And so that's that. So the idea then is, in some sense, this is what we're perceiving is more a VR thing than a true picture of reality.
I can believe that because I don't know exactly when it was, but we did an episode. We were talking about measurements. And basically we got into this area of in science, without these tools, our measurements would suck because we would have to rely on our senses.
Our senses,
and our
correct.
senses are never sufficient to measure things properly.
All right, so pick up from there, Don. There are species here on planet Earth. The reality is maybe a mantis shrimp that can see so many different colors, a bat that exists with sonar, birds that can register light on a UV spectrum.
Right.
Their reality is different to ours, surely. But these are all sensory capabilities. Are we're just not able to process the data. Is that what we're trying to say here?
Yeah. So I guess what he's saying is everybody's quote unquote window is different. It's based on the way that their sense perceptions apparatus works. So like you said, a lobster is going to see the world different than a human would, obviously. And I think we can all agree with that, right?
Right, I would agree with that, but I still think that there is an objective reality regardless of how one interface may perceive it. Well, God damn it, now my cat don't want to shut up. Ozzy!
Wow, she listened.
He listened.
Oh, he listened?
And he not listening.
Oh, Lord.
What was I saying? Damn it.
You said there is an objective reality. It's just
yes.
that the interface does something.
Regardless to how one interface perceives it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, shut up, please. I got 3 cats staring at me, man. Like, I'm gonna have to ask my son if he fed these cats. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm ruining the damn stream.
No problem. I'm gonna keep the video going. I'll mute out if the cats keep cutting up.
I muted myself.
Partly, there's so much data that we can't process, but it's even deeper than that. We don't see reality because what we've got are tricks and hacks. And I'll give you a concrete, funny example.
All right.
So there's a jewel beetle in the outback of Australia. So these beetles are dimpled, glossy, and brown. The males fly, the females are flightless. And the males fly around looking for eligible females. And if a male finds one, he alights and mates. And so and they've done that for who knows how long, tens of thousands of years. It's been a very successful life for the jewel beetles. But it turns out that there are some beer bottles that guys like to drink from in Australia. They're dimpled, glossy, and just the right shade of brown to tickle the fancy of these male jewel beetles. So these guys will throw them out into the desert, and jewel beetles flock all over these bottles. They get on them, they crawl all over them trying to mate, and the females aren't getting anything. This just all bottle.
Because the guys are idiots. What else is new?
I'm going to say that's more an admonition against beer. Those are the truest beer goggles ever.
Yeah. Okay, so that evolutionary element got hijacked by the beer bottle.
That's right. So the beetles, the males, have full body contact with the bottle. They're crawling all over it, and yet they cannot tell that this is not a female. So it's truly stunning. What did they learn? You would think that the males actually had been shaped by evolution to know what a female is. No, all they had was a simple hack. A female is anything dimpled, glossy, and brown. The bigger, the better. And that was what they were looking for.
And they didn't need to know more than that. They need to know basics.
No, they had to, right. I'm going to go with Neil's assertion that they're idiots. Because I'm going to tell you something. We have in our species something called real dolls. And although they call them real, we know they're not real.
Do you really know? Okay. Nope, that's lame. Mm-hmm. Ready? Do you harbor questions?
Past that.
Well, so I would say that the beetle just has a limited perception, you know, and the beetle is not evolved enough to differentiate between the beer bottle that resembles the color of the female beetle. So, I mean, we could say, reality is not as it appears, in the sense that depending on your own interface and your own subjective experience or qualia, you're going to see things a certain way. I mean, I will agree with it as far as, that far. I wouldn't say though that reality is automatically not what it seems 100%. It's just based on what you can comprehend and perceive. There may be more to it than what meets the eye, or there may be more to it than what your intelligence can comprehend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that whole phenomena versus the noumena thing. Like we perceive, we have access to the phenomena, but it isn't necessarily the noumena, if I understand that right. Like the noumena is the objective and the phenomena is the subjective way we interpret that noumena.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not very familiar with that particular, analogy, so I can't really speak on it, but I've heard you speak about that before.
Yeah, that's that Kantian idealism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let the good doctor go first, but
Right.
Because I've never done psychedelics, nor do I have any intent to do so.
I know.
On the grounds that the human mind barely works at all as a data-taking device in our environment. And I highly value objective reality. So if I'm going to stir in chemicals into my brain, I don't know what the objective is, but if it takes me farther away from reality, I can't, it's not calling to me.
in the words of Ray Manzarek, it's about mind expansion, man.
Yeah, I don't want to expand.
So I guess he's saying the hallucinogens are not going to give you an expanded view of reality. They're just kind of making it worse. So I guess he would say something like DMT doesn't help you see reality. It's almost crippling you more, is Neil deGrasse fear.
I would just like to know, based on what is he saying that? He just said he never done psychedelics, so he definitely isn't saying that from his own experience. Secondly, that goes against all the studies that are out there concerning psychedelics.
Yeah.
And I would like to know where the hell he's getting that from. That sounds like a personal opinion that is severely misguided or something.
Yeah, it's like you can say anything from your philosophical armchair.
In other
Right.
words, if I, let's say, I've had a particular trauma that I wasn't aware of that was working in the background of my psyche, and I did a psychedelic that pointed me to that trauma through a specific hallucination, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
Kind of like a dream. When you have a dream about something that could be bothering you subconsciously, and you have a dream that's very symbolic, and suddenly you have this epiphany and you're like, oh, I know what this is trying to tell me. That is much like how psychedelics work. They can expand your mind and reveal things to you about your own psyche, and so in that sense it is most certainly a mind expander.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people feel like, whenever you get high and they think that maybe they may be confusing things like cocaine and heroin or marijuana even with things like DMT. Like it's just another way of getting high and confusing your brain.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
that's the
science does not support that, and I thought dude was a scientist, so I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, he ain't trying to hear that.
I mean, look at his eyes, him rolling his eyes. I that's a little bit arrogant as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, moving right along.
Yeah. Let's see.
And in a place that is farther away from objective reality.
Okay,
it's all you now, Don.
Right. So I myself have not taken any psychedelics, but I'm collaborating with people who have and who are doing into this. And most of the time, I would say,
yeah, go ahead.
What the hell, music? You be tripping. People see billboards or television commercials that they think are speaking special messages to them. Now, please tell me, how is that in any way similar to what I said? This is why you get called out, because you're making arguments in bad faith. And I'm going to tell you straight to your stupid screen name.
You hear that X music getting called out, man.
You can always call in and come on and go at it with me, because that had shit to do with what I said.
Yeah.
It's about mind expansion, man.
Yeah, I don't want to expand in a place that is farther away from objective reality. So, it's all you now, Don.
Right. So I myself have not taken any psychedelics, but I'm collaborating with people who have and who are doing research into this. And most of the time, I would say the best hypothesis is they're just screwing things up, right? The psychedelics are just sort of addling your brain. But there are cases where I think it's worth scientific research to just try to figure out if something deeper is going on, perhaps in the case of DMT, for example. But I should say that what I just said about evolution gives me a different view on neuroscience than you would normally hear from a neuroscientist. So I'm a neuroscientist. I love to study the brain. And I think that neurons do not exist when they're not perceived.
Oh, that's more quantum, isn't it?
Oh, look at that. Yeah, you went total string theory on us.
No, he went total quantum.
Neural quantum.
Go ahead.
Sorry, this X music guy, man. I'm about to come through the screen.
X music, let us know. Have you ever done psychedelics?
So you're telling me, X music, that your dreams, which come from your own mind, have zero meaning? Okay, well, that's just a nice way to tell me that you're brainless. Moving right along.
He went off the quantum ledge on that.
That's right. So the idea is that if it's a VR headset kind of thing, what you see is what you render on the fly. So if you're in like a game like Grand Theft Auto and you see a red Corvette off to your right, well, there is no red Corvette in reality because the supercomputer has no red Corvette in it. So the red Corvette that I'm seeing is there when I look and render it, and when I look the other direction, it's gone. So the Corvette only exists as I perceive it. Now, if I'm a multiplayer game and someone else is looking at a red Corvette, when I'm not, they're seeing their red Corvette. They're not seeing the one that I saw.
They're not seeing yours. You just described the game of adult peekaboo.
Yeah, that's funny. But explain to me, because I've never played Grand Theft Auto. Right? Does it render only the direction you're looking in to save CPU?
That's right. That's typical of games.
So it knows which way you're looking.
Right.
Okay. So
because it doesn't make sense if you're not looking at it for it to be rendering because you can't see it anyway.
This has been the major argument in simulation theory, where
it didn't.
Why would the programmer waste computer power simulating things that no one is conscious of?
That's right.
Right. Just make it exist when you get there. So, for example, if you dig into the earth, it only has to make the layers of the earth when you get
digging
there.
Right too.
It's way cheaper. Way more accessible to the programmer than creating everything at all there all at once.
That's my theory on the speed of light. If there's a simulation, the reason why you can't go faster than the speed of light is because that is the speed at which they need to create the simulation so that it can be there when you see it.
Okay, so Einstein had a theory. That's your hypothesis. I just want to...
Oh, sorry. You're absolutely right. Yeah. That's my idea.
All right, so you've both...
That's a thought.
That's my thought.
All right, so you've both tapped into simulation theory. Don, is that what's in practice here? I mean, are the realities layered and one within another?
Or maybe it's because we are like, we can't go faster than ourselves.
Yeah. And so I guess he's saying it's like a data structure that renders itself on the fly. Nature is kind of like that, according to the interface that you're rendering it from. I guess is the idea there.
Widely regarded as containing the
Shut
central dogma.
Shut up.
Simulation theory, as is typically put out, like Nick Bostrom and others who are Elon Musk who are interested in it. So I'll say at top level, yes, it's very, very similar, but I'll make two important distinctions between Bostrom's point of view and what I'm saying. One point is that Bostrom, he says, we're probably a simulation and there's some geek with a computer at a different level that's programming us and making us up. But that geek is actually simulated by someone at an even lower level, and you can go down many, many levels until you get to the bottom level. And the bottom level, he assumes, is a physical space-time level.
A real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I get off the train, because I say there's no reason on evolutionary grounds to believe that space-time is fundamental. In fact, we have good reason to believe on high-energy theoretical physics grounds that space-time is doomed, as many high-energy theoretical physicists say. Space-time is...
Yeah, I always know that, like the Planck, the minus 33 centimeters is where it bottoms out, and 10 to the 45 centimeters is where time bottoms out. So you can't really measure in principle, not just that we don't have the right tools to see it, but if you were to shine too much light plus gravity into one area to get higher and higher resolution, you create like a black hole. So just in principle, you can't go farther than that. And so that's where physicalism kind of falls apart. Yeah. Because if physicalism is saying that the only thing that's real is what can be measured, well, you can't measure it at that level. And so what happens to fundamental reality? If it's all physical shit, then physicalism doesn't work. And
well, I mean, it could still be physical. It's just at a scale where you can no longer measure it.
Yeah, well, then, and in that case, you'd just be doing guesswork. That's what I'm saying. It'd just be like, it's just like my belief is that it's just more physical stuff. But the physicalists aren't really saying it's just a belief. What they're saying is that, no, everything is physical. Everything, beyond that is physical. It's just that, that's the guesswork they put in. It's just like with the idealists, their guesswork is that it's consciousness or something.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of in the middle because I think that it's physical and mental.
Yeah,
and conscious,
Yeah, that's what panpsychists would say too,
But panpsychism is still a little bit different because panpsychism basically has no explanation as to why. It's like they say, well, okay, they haven't figured out the mechanism, because how does the consciousness get into the physical stuff, right?
Right.
What would they say? Like, what, you just sprinkle a little bit of consciousness on it? They have an assumption, but they have no mechanism that could properly explain it. And in my opinion, my model explains it nicely because it's just an intrinsic nature of consciousness is physicality.
Yeah, and mine is kind of rooted in epistemology, just like yours. Like I would say that the physical is real. Like there is a physical reality. And I think that physical reality emerges from deeper structures. And I think that deeper structure is only known through an experience of the void. It's all sort of an observation. So, the consciousness isn't something that's reducible. You can't, we can reduce the physical to the 10 to the minus 33 and all of that, but you can't reduce consciousness to any Planck scale.
No.
Because the Planck scale itself appears in consciousness. So it seems like consciousness is something separate in that sense, in that measurable sense, at least. But it's all interrelated in a, it's all sort of connected, in a non-dual sense. So that's how I kind of see it.
Right.
Exit Music says Arthur Dimsdale saw a red letter ablazing in the sky and thought it was a message from God. And Hawthorne Scarlet writers have made a joke. Yeah, and the really silly thing about when you start talking about things in the sky and looking for messages in the sky, and fundamental reality is up there in the sky or something like that. That's kind of weird because up there is a location. It's a place. And places are not relative to non-locality. Like, that's the whole point, is that there is no out there in that way, that everything is sort of combined in one reality. It's not really, it's just that we perceive, time and space and all these things, but those things are not fundamental. Like we're just talking about, like all that stuff is kind of bottomed out, and we know that. We've known that.
Or we just think that something comes from out there because of a lack of awareness. It comes all from within your own mind,
right?
Because you are not aware of that, because you're very unconscious. You think it came from out there, or the aliens implanted it into your brain.
Yeah, there's always some out there.
I can't hear you, Scott. Fix your mic.
Not better?
Nope. Keep talking. It's still not right.
All right. Is that any better?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's just whenever it's almost like we're assuming worldviews when we start talking about location and causation and stuff like that. We have to remember that that's just how it appears to us within our limited minds. I mean, at least on a non-dual or an idealistic sort of viewpoint, it's just an experience. It's not necessarily how it really is, but that's to be debated. Everybody can disagree, but I'll go ahead and keep playing the video.
Doomed, and they're looking for new structures beyond space-time. So I don't want to say that, I don't want to buy that the bottom level is a space-time level. And the second part of the standard simulation theory that I don't buy is that the idea is that you can simulate consciousness, conscious experiences through algorithms on computers. And I'm good friends and colleagues with most of the players who are trying to do this. And it's a remarkable thing. I mean, these are brilliant, brilliant scientists. But the hard fact is that to date, there's not a single specific conscious experience that any scientific theory has ever been able to show we could program up. For example, there's no theory about how we get the taste of chocolate, the smell of garlic, nothing. So we are batting exactly zero right now in terms of any theory that will explain a specific conscious experience. So I think it's a principled failure. These people are brilliant. Many of them are geniuses. They're good friends of mine. If we could do it, I think we would have done it. And we haven't been able to do it. So,
well, I mean, it's very possible that we don't have the computing power to do it because go ahead.
Wait. Okay, so all you just said,
yes,
if I may summarize, is that we don't understand consciousness yet as we think it exists. So I don't believe you're saying anything deeper than that. It's just a frontier, a neuroscience physics frontier. So what point are you making other than saying we don't understand it yet? I can say we don't know what happened before the Big Bang. That's a frontier.
Right.
I'm not trying to say anything deeper than that. If we don't understand it, we don't understand it. We have top people working on it. So where are you trying to take us there?
So where I'm taking us is that for the last 30 or 40 years, there's been concerted effort by many brilliant neuroscientists and computer scientists, and a number of theories proposed. For example, integrated information theory, Penrose and Hameroff's quantum collapse of microtubules theories. There's lots of specific mathematically precise theories. And when you ask them, okay, you have a theory of observation, conscious experiences. What specific conscious experience can you explain? And the answer is zero. And this has been after
There's still a frontier. And what I tell people is, by the way, of course, there's a book published on consciousness 3 times a year. Right. Okay, pick a number, it'll be pretty close. Mm-hmm. And that is evidence we don't yet understand consciousness. Because if we did, all the publications would stop and we'd be on to some other subject.
Okay.
So the more that's published on something, it's evidence of how little we understand. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Makes sense.
So Don, as you know, in biological circles, there's a lot of talk lately about emergence,
right.
So like the flocking of birds.
Oh, Lord, here we go with that emergence. This is like one of the most weirdest things. Like, to me, consciousness emerging from matter, just, I don't get it. But, you know, it's a very popular sentiment. And I don't want to say it's a dumb idea. I just say that maybe, and that's a cute little puppy. What's his name, by the way?
Folgers.
Folgers.
Because he's brown like coffee.
Folgers. That's cute, man. Next music says LLMs don't think, they're asked questions. They're inactive, like being dead in a physicalist worldview. Yeah, I would agree.
You know, if you can analyze every cell of a bird and every molecule within it, it doesn't say
Nothing indicates flocking.
Flocking. Yet together they all sort of know what they're doing. So might consciousness be something emergent within our evolutionary tree? Or is it that is you need these other base ingredients and then consciousness manifests atop them all?
Like,
or do you think it's built into our code?
So most of my colleagues who are, scientists who are studying consciousness from a physiological or computational point of view would think that consciousness somehow emerges from either properties of algorithms or properties of neural activity or so forth.
So a chat bot's conscious. Has consciousness emerged, given they have access to every word we have ever posted on the internet? That's a big slice of anyone's brain, of the summation of many brains. But will you deny them consciousness? Well, because I don't think Turing would.
And yeah, Exabutic says biological systems aren't just matter. They're active energy in our brains, electrical and chemical energy. But did you know?
I thought energy was still matter. Or
yeah, matter is energy. It's just a different form of energy. And then also
change.
Those things can be computationally described. Everything, when you keep asking, like, say, why this, why that, you keep asking the why question like a little 6-year-old, it always bottoms out to math. They'll send you right to the math department. It'll say, well, basically why? It's because the math says this, that the theorem is this. That's where he's talking about, I think, when it comes to this algorithm. What he's referring to is how on physicalist, materialist methodologies, it always bottoms out to descriptions that's captured within the mathematics and the equations. And what he's saying is there is no equation for even one single experience. There's not one theory for any qualia. Experience, for qualia at all. That's the problem. That's the hard problem of consciousness, I think.
Yeah.
Turing would. Most of my colleagues would say that they're conscious, and I would say that the whole question is framed the wrong way. We're starting with something inside of our headset, and we're asking if the headset can generate consciousness. And I think it's the other way around. The consciousness looks at itself through infinitely many different headsets, and space-time is just one of them. And the proof of this will be whether or not one can actually use neural activity or some kind of algorithms to actually give theories, not just claims, but a theory of specific conscious experiences. I like the taste of mint. Give me an algorithm and a theory that says this must be the taste of mint, a scientific theory that says this must be the taste of mint, and here is why. Or, for example, in the case of integrated information theory, a theory of neural activity and more general than neural activity, a theory about how the right kind of causal structures could be conscious experiences. I would, again, ask them, give me a specific integrated information causal structure that must be the taste of mint. Right now, there is 0 on the table. There are no successes.
Well, for humans as well as chatbots. So you can't blame chatbots for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my view is consciousness does not emerge from algorithms. It does not emerge from neurons. It does not emerge from anything inside space and time whatsoever.
Right.
In fact, it's the other way around. Space and time and everything inside them emerges as a trivial headset from consciousness.
Okay, so are we looking at mathematics as the key?
X Music, you're saying, so this guy again just stating the limitations of language. No, I don't think so. I think that the neuroscientists that say that emergence is going to explain consciousness, they're the ones that are using language to define and explain away consciousness. That's the whole point he's making. You know, when you say like not true, neurons are not like computer on-off logic. I don't think any neuroscientist is saying that. I don't think. They don't have two states. They change shape, size. Yes, they're dynamic, but all of that stuff can be described mathematically. And in fact, it is. It's called integrated information theory, where they do just that. That test is called pi. That's how they measure any conscious state, or it's an attempt to. We use labels to describe sensory experience like red mint, or we use metaphors to describe things we see here like classical music, right? And yeah, and that just deepens the problem. You're just relabeling it or shifting it to language, but that's still not solving the problem. Just calling it language doesn't solve the problem of consciousness, the hard problem.
Because you actually have the experience of tasting and hearing or whatever. Well, not hearing, but tasting, or how a song makes you feel when you hear the music. You're still having these experiences. So whether you describe it with language or symbols, that's not the point, actually.
Yeah, the experience is not the language that you describe it in. You know,
Right.
the language is something we made up. It isn't the fundamental of an experience. You don't just say, oh, experience is just this or that, and we use language. That's not really getting to the point. The point is that there's something that the language is describing. It's that something that we're trying to describe. That's the ontology that we're pointing to. You know, that's the whole problem there. If their argument inability to describe it. Yeah. Okay.
To a solution? Are we looking here at consciousness being a quantum, I want to say thing, but that sounds really clumsy and heavy. But
I mean, why couldn't it be a quantum manifestation, though?
So in which case, when does space-time cease to exist, and at what scale, what level are you saying that stops to happen?
Well, on the very last question, I can say that it's not me saying it, but actually the high-energy theoretical physicists tell us precisely where it stops. It stops at 10 to the minus 33 centimeters and 10 to the minus 43 seconds.
Yeah, it's a Planck
That's a
scale.
Planck.
That's Planck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to be clear here, space-time, as we think of it as a continuum, as described by Einstein, is very successful in accounting for what we see in the universe. What we find is that on these, I can't even call it granular scale, because it's way smaller than that.
Exactly.
There's a breakdown, and the general relativity does not play nice in the sand with the quantum.
Right.
But most people are betting on the quantum because of how successful
they would. Yeah.
it has been. If I were you, I'd bet stick with quantum. Stick with the quantum. But before you even go further on that, Gary, Don, I want to just assess layers of reality, not in a programmer's sense, but there's still the matter of the lion that has teeth, and I see teeth, and those teeth will eat me, and so I cannot embrace your statement that is some kind of virtual reality that does not correspond with an objective reality, because I can, as a scientist, this is what we've been doing since Galileo, and especially since the 19th century, we can create a machine that can make a measurement that does not use your neurons.
Right.
See, that gets into stuff like observer problem and stuff like that. I'm surprised Neil would say that. because we still have the observer problem, no matter what tools we use. Right?
Right.
Like, you still have to depend on your perception. All those observations depends on being conscious to observe it, right?
That's right.
So why would he say that? Like, that's the whole point. That's why scientists come up with tools. You try to get out of your personal subjective perception, which is kind of bullshit because you're still stuck in an inner subjective thing. Like, you're all kind of stuck. We're all stuck. So I don't understand how the tools are going to make a difference here. You still got the observer problem.
Yeah. Can't get around that.
You can't get around it.
And I can say I'm looking at a furry thing with a mane and big teeth, and it weighs 800 pounds, and then it walks on a scale. The scale registers 800 pounds. A picture gets taken of it. It's got a mane. It's got big teeth.
Yeah, but it's still the observer problem. Man, what is he talking about? Fuck, man.
The hell out of me.
And 10 minutes later, I am mauled. So I have a hard time embracing your statement that evolution prevents me from seeing the objective reality of what just happened.
Well, so I'll just say that the evolution says the probability is 0, that any measurement gives you a true picture of reality. But the issue that you raised about observation is really a critical one. I think it's, in fact, the central issue before science today. Right. What's remarkable is that science does not have a theory of observation.
There you go.
And that's one of the biggest open problems in science that's widely.
Thank you. That's the observer problem. And that's no X music. He says, are talking about the quantum of, no, it's not just, it is the quantum, but it's also just everything is. That's not even taught any longer in physics programs. What are you talking about?
Wow.
The observer problem is still a problem. That's why it's called the observer problem.
Recognized. I mean, John Wheeler, in his famous 1989 paper from BIT, was basically saying we have to reboot our physics with some what he called observer participants. And Frank Wilczek has said the same thing. We need to have a theory of the observer. And what's remarkable is now in the quantum measurement problem, so where we're trying to figure out how, when we make measurements in quantum theory, we have the unitary evolution that's called the unitary evolution when you're not looking, and then there's this collapse when you're supposed to be observing. And there is no theory yet about that collapse. So where science is right now is we don't have a theory of observation. And what's stunning about that is if you think about what science is, it's a bunch of people.
See, I like how Donald's breaking this shit. It's like he's teaching them some shit right now. That's awesome, though. And I would be really curious to see what their pushback is going to be, because that I know 100%. I've already been reading up on this. This is not a bullshit argument. This is for real.
That are looking and talking to each other and saying, "This is what I saw. What did you see? Let's compare notes. Let's try to understand how to understand what are different perspectives and views and observations."
Well, I have to correct that. They're not saying, this is what I saw, what did you see? They're saying, this is what I measured. What did you measure? And
that's what he's saying, though. That's all he's saying. That's what he means by see. He's just talking about measurement.
So let me add to your comment that we don't have a theory of observation. That's definitely true. But as a corollary to that, we don't have a full theory of measurement.
Right.
And they're related. They're related because
the wave function collapse is consistent through all those who measure.
Correct.
Right.
Right. Except if you're not measuring it, it's not collapsing.
Right.
So they're related.
Yes.
Right. So I don't want it. So I'm still trying to take human perception out of this equation because I can build a machine to make the measurement. Now, you're a neuroscientist, so perception is everything. But coming to you as a physicist, I cannot embrace the idea that we are perceiving anything because we work really hard to get our five senses out of the experiment.
when you make a measurement with a physical device, it doesn't get into a scientific theory until some person actually perceives the measurement outcome.
Correct. But we can all then look at that measurement and agree what it says without having to trust someone's testimony for what.
Yeah, but humans have their own interface. That's what he's getting at.
Scott, your mic's fucking up again.
Oh, damn.
Okay, now it's right.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you still rely on perception even through your tools. And just the fact that everybody can agree on what's measured. Donald Hoffman is saying, though, that humans share the same kind of interface, the human interface. So, you know, the measuring devices have their own kind of interfaces, even if they can measure more than what humans can see. I mean, there's like probably trillions of different interfaces to reality, you know? That doesn't, I don't understand. I don't know. But Exit Music says, Sean Carroll, the observer problem is something only taught to freshmen as an intro to the history of quantum theory. He said that many times in interviews. So what? Sean Carroll is coming at it. He's coming at it from his own many worlds theory interpretation of reality. He's inferring that there are many worlds that explain what we observe, because every time the wave collapses, it takes a different trajectory to a different parallel universe, from what I understand. So that's just another theory. I'm not saying it's wrong. He may have precise language on that, but it's just a hypothesis. The many worlds theory should be the many worlds hypothesis, because we don't have any empirical tests that proves that there are multiverses and stuff like that. That's just not even that parsimonious anyways. You know, you're just introducing an infinity amount of realities to explain one reality. What
they observed.
Or are you saying that the agreement itself is a shared perception?
Right.
Well, we know from Einstein that if we both are we're both measuring the velocity of an object or the speed or the shape of an object, we're going to get different answers depending on our frame of reference, right? But we actually know how to translate between, you know, Neil's frame of reference and Chuck's frame of reference to say, even though they got different answers, we can understand that they somehow agree.
There is no transference into Chuck's frame of reference.
Right.
He has his own.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something right now. It's a mess up in here.
Okay, so we've talked about how we as humans can perceive and our frameworks, etc. What if we now find alien beings who have the sensorial capacity to be able to absorb way more data than we possibly could of the reality? Are we then, and I can get carried away now, looking at a fourth, fifth, sixth dimension in which these problems that we've fumbled with are solved?
Wait, before you get there, that's an important question.
Okay.
That I address in my recently published book.
Uh-oh.
Take Me to Your Leader.
All right.
There's a whole chapter on alien powers that they could have.
Okay.
And there's even
I'm currently reading that, so I haven't got to that.
Oh, you haven't gotten that yet.
No.
There's a story by Voltaire, of all people, written in the mid-18th century, where he imagines, this is one of the earliest total alien fictional stories imagined, where there's an alien 26 miles tall. And stay with me. And he has,
it's in the NBA.
And I forgot.
Very good. The Knicks. He's joining the Knicks next year. They're going to win another championship.
Carry on.
I don't know where he got the number. He's just 26 miles away, and he has 7,000 senses. And he comes upon other life forms and can't fathom how they can be so tiny and have so few senses and still understand or perceive
as
the
we
world.
would look at an earthworm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So people have gone there before, but I just want to say that these machines are not only measuring things to replace our senses, they're measuring things that our senses have no access to, like the ultraviolet and the infrared,
right,
and gravitational perturbations and ionizing radiation. It has nothing to do with our senses, but we have machines that can measure them. And so I'm quite proud of the scientific community for building what are now dozens of senses of the world, so that when someone comes to your dinner party and says, I have a sixth sense.
You could say,
Give it to them,
right?
And then
what you have is a delusion.
no. let them have their sixth sense, but say I have another dozen. So
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
why don't you be impressed with mine? Right. So anyhow, I don't think of things that our senses can't detect as some magical other reality. They're just things that our machines ultimately were able to bring to our awareness.
I don't want to speak for Don, but I think he's saying that somehow our perceptions and those machines are tied together.
Yes, in the following sense that we have, I'm claiming that our perceptions of the world are just a particular headset. We have a three-dimensional space, one-dimensional time headset with certain properties. I could imagine other headsets that have 4 dimensions, 5 dimensions, 20 dimensions, have senses built into them that we can't, for example, electric sensing in water, things like that. I think sharks can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So your headset
metaphor.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
He sensed that.
Well, sense it.
So that headset metaphor is quite potent with regard to your aliens who are coming to visit.
Yes, yeah, it is, and in fact, I'm collaborating with Andrew Gallimore, who is a world expert on DMT and the studies of that. And one thing that I have a mathematical model of how our headset is built, and a theory of observation, and we're using that to try to begin to model how we might understand alien intelligences as having different headsets that are different from ours in ways that we can actually write down mathematics. For example, our headset may be a subset of theirs. They may have higher dimensions than we have.
Love me high dimensional aliens. That'd be the funnest thing ever.
Well, believe it or not, I met higher dimensional aliens while I was doing ayahuasca. I'm not even lying, man.
By the way, did you know this? I only knew it researching for my book.
Go ahead.
There's a subset of DMT users that all agree that they're interacting with aliens.
So
interesting, because I never interacted with aliens.
I didn't, but my brother said he did. And I talked to a few other people that claim they did. And apparently I was talking to my buddy Sam, and he said he met some chick who had DMT. He was going to try to hook me up with her to get a hold of it, he said, but he turned it down. But she kept telling him he would be able to talk to aliens and stuff. But I never talked to aliens.
I had I guess I had one experience where I kind of saw geometrical faces or something that were protruding out of geometrical shapes or something. And they did seem sentient, whatever the hell it was, and very welcoming or whatever, but I wouldn't say I felt like I was interacting with aliens.
Well, then again, we have to really break down what do we mean by aliens, because alien doesn't mean you come from Mars. It could just mean that they're just alien, like different or not the same as you. It's alien. That's really what the term really means. So it doesn't mean they come from Venus or something. It could just mean some sort of different being or something like that, or I don't know. It just depends on your interpretation.
When it comes to DMT, I think it is an inward experience, all the way. And I think that anything that you experience on DMT has to do with everything that is a part of your own psyche. And even though a lot of people's experiences are very similar, it's probably because it's according to the way that DMT affects the human interface. We all share in the human interface. So I don't think that DMT gives you any type of insight on anything out there. You know what I mean?
Right. I always took it as it tells you more about yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have formed a subgroup within DMT user, the user group.
I did not know that.
It's an alien sub, and they want to get together, see if they're actually somehow cross-dimensional communicating with aliens, and they compare notes.
I would say that makes perfect sense, because in my experience, quite frankly, I had, and maybe I did, because here's the thing. I felt like the entire time, first of all, you're not high when you do ayahuasca. That's a misnomer. You are not a misconception. You're not like, oh my God, I'm tripping my balls off. It's like your brain has been subsectioned and you're kind of in touch with all of the different sections of your brain. But the whole time I was telling myself, this is my perception. This is
right. Well, this is refreshing. So he's coming in and talking about this. This is cool.
I'm glad somebody with some sense came in.
For once, man. Wow. Exactly.
It's all coming from my brain. And the eye.
Say that again.
Sorry, I started talking right when you started playing it again. He's actually saying what I was saying. It's all the parts of your own freaking psyche that you're experiencing, and also you can kind of describe it like different rooms, and every room is a section of your own psyche. Hello.
Yep. I agree. It's mainly.
I didn't hear you again.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was just saying I can agree with that. I mean, it's telling you about yourself, but I think it is tweaking your brain so that you can see reality differently. Now, I can say that from my experience, I did see more dimensions because I kept seeing these inverted cubes. Like a lot of my visions were of shapes that I've never seen in that way. Like I would open my eyes and look at stuff and I would see them in different dimensions is the best way I could put it. Like, you know how you see those 4-dimensional cubes and stuff like that?
Yeah,
I
well, I think that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that the DMT allowed me to see things in that way rather than just the 3D way.
Right, but I think that DMT is like a death simulator, and it basically simulates the death experience, right? Or what happens right before death. And when you're dying, your own brain actually makes DMT, and then the ego starts to dissolve, and you no longer pay attention to the waking world, right? So I think that's why the perception shifts like it does, because the DMT gives you a simulation of the death experience, or I won't say like the actual death after you die, because we don't know that. We could never know that, but we know what happens during the dying process.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of simulates the dying process.
Right. I can get with that for real. Yeah. Anyways, let me keep this going.
Ayahuasca was like, and what difference does that make? Because it doesn't make any of this any less real. Sectioned, and you're kind of in touch with all of the different sections of your brain. But the whole time I was telling myself, this is my perception. This is all coming from my brain. And the ayahuasca was like, and what difference does that make? Because it doesn't make any of this any less real. Mm-hmm. And the more I accepted that, the more expansive the experience became. And I met beings that told me that, quite frankly, the way it works is we're in a really dimension.
So,
yeah. What did he say? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he said we live in a real shitty dimension.
Oh.
Yeah, like our interface is just very limited.
Why do we all come to this conclusion when we do DMT? Because he heard that we're living in a real shitty. That's funny, but I experienced it as we're just a bunch of fucking babies building reality with like Lego blocks and shit, and it's real rigid and horrible.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And what you bring into it.
Your mic, Scott, your mic.
Yeah, also what you bring into the experience counts, like how you set it up. Like if you're real negative or you're real fucked up, then it may just like if your ego's on fucking 10 or some shit.
I don't know. With DMT, I don't think it's either gonna fucking snatch you out of there or not. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same for everybody. But when it comes to like shrooms and stuff, I think your own state of mind, your energy or whatever, has a lot to do with what kind of trip you're gonna have. But when it comes to DMT, like I said, you don't have no control over that at all. Like if it hits you, it's gonna hit you, and it hits most people the same. I've read like hundreds of testimonies of people who did DMT, and pretty much everybody who it's affected has virtually the same experience. Like there ain't shit you can do about it, because again, I believe it simulates the dying process, and just like when you're dying, there ain't shit you can do about it. You're gonna have that experience regardless of your ego.
Yeah. Altered states are just the mind tripping out, trying to make sense of it and relating it to reality. It's just stupid and not a real view of existence. Well, that's the question on the table, though. I mean, that's a good theory, but that's all it is. It's a theory from your philosophical armchair, because you can argue that even our normal, quote unquote, normal experience is not a reflection of true existence or reality. So that's kind of a moot point. I mean, it's just experiencing reality differently. Maybe both of them are fucked up and wrong. Or
yeah, what if neither one exists? And I mean, we could say that as well.
Right.
That's that's an opinion,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all have opinions, and I mean, no one really knows.
Don.
Here we go. Bring me home.
It just trips me out how people say things like it's a fact, like it's just this or that. I mean, how do you know that for a fact,
Or new metaphor. If you can actually mathematically model that, then it becomes more than a metaphor. It becomes a tool to calculate. What confidence do you have that Chuck actually had access beyond his current dimension?
As a scientist, I'm hard-nosed and I'm completely agnostic, but I want to do experiments. And so I'm actually designing experiments with Andrew Gallimar where we would, for example, Andrew has this technology where you can put people under DMT for extended periods of time. So for more than just 3 or 5 minutes, you can put them in there for an hour or something like that, or 20 minutes. So you can actually have So what we would like to do is say, are these aliens real? In the sense that they're sort of, we could have one nuonaut, one person who's taking DMT, go and give an alien creature in the DMT world some piece of information, and then have that transmitted to somebody else, a different person.
Good way to test that.
Wow. So we're coming up with experiments like that where I'm completely hard-nosed. If that can be done, I don't know if I will believe it even then. I would want to do a bunch of experiments, but at least I'm open.
Yeah, you need.
I feel the same way about out-of-body experiences, where if you're in the bed, get someone to write something that's facing upwards. If you have an out-of-body experience looking down on your body, you should be able to read that statement.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a big leap of assumption too. Like, who says that once you go out of your body, you'd even care about some shit that's written down on a piece of paper? You'd probably be more.
I don't know. It's just the thing about stuff like that. I mean, I personally, I'm speaking, this is anecdotal evidence, right? This is not any kind of proof. I mean, me personally, I don't even know if it's an out-of-body experience necessarily. It just seems to be that way because you seem to be experiencing something different simultaneously to also seeing your actual immediate surroundings. But yet you don't feel attached to your body, right? And that shit happens to me involuntarily, so I'm focused on what the fuck's happening to me, and I'm not trying to stay focused and read a piece of paper.
Oh no, I've had out-of-body experience. I described those to you. The most recent one was terrifying. And, you know, and I'm saying that as someone who willingly goes into night terrors. I love sleep paralysis.
And that's why I say your
love
ass is
that
crazy.
shit. Man, I love that shit. At first, it used to freak the shit out of me, and I hated it. But it happened to me so much. I was
Okay,
like, you know
but my
what?
question is why, like, how do you love it? Like, do you not see like all the negative things that people associate with sleep paralysis or what?
I don't know. I just felt like it gave me a sense of control, my emotions. Like, you know, it's kind of like, look, it's
But are
like,
you sure it's sleep paralysis though? Because
yeah. I know it is 100% because, and I don't have sleep paralysis anymore. Unfortunately, I can't invoke it anymore. So what
unfortunately,
happened?
that's a good thing.
Unfortunately, I try so bad, and I can't do it. I used to crave that shit, Sophia, and I know that sounds really crazy, but it's kind of like I got that type of attitude from my dad because my dad forced me to do shit I didn't want to do until I liked it. He said, "You're gonna like it, and if you don't like it, you're gonna do it until you do like it, motherfucker."
So
That's
what
he
do you
told me.
what do you
So
experience during your what did you experience during your sleep paralysis?
so I would be stuck in the bed. I could open my eyes, but I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. And I felt like I was trapped and vulnerable. And then visions would happen. Like I would have visions of like ghosts or demons or what the fuck ever I can imagine would come around me and press on me and keep me held down. And I would try
And
to
you crave
scream
that
out.
shit.
And I hated it at first. But then after I kept doing it over and over and over, and I said, you know what? All right. Because I'm the kind of person I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. If that's how you want to play, I'll go right along with it. You ain't scaring me. And that's the attitude I went into it with. And I think that's why it can't happen to me anymore. It stopped scaring me. It started to be something I wanted to happen. And ever since I've changed over, it happened less and less until it just went away. And I hate it, man. I want to go back to that. I miss that shit.
So then what happened? It just ended when you had that attitude?
Yeah.
It just
Yeah, it
stopped?
just ended. Yeah, it just left me alone. It
I
just
mean,
wouldn't
that
happen.
I guess it was similar for me, but I didn't really quite have that attitude. It was definitely something that made me have to overcome my fear because the more I panicked, the worse it got, and the less I was able to wake up. So I did have to face it and consciously force myself to face it without fear, and then it would stop. But I didn't like it still. I still wouldn't welcome it. You know what I mean? That's the part where I think your ass is fucking crazy. Yeah.
Well, this is where Examuga has a point. He says if you learn how you can transfer sleep paralysis into lucid dreaming and out of body experience. That's what I was getting to. Is that now I can't really get into the sleep paralysis, but what I can do is I can get somewhere close to a sleep paralysis. But for me, what happens is I just go into a lucid dream. And now I've learned I can go into an out of body. So I'll feel like I'm leaving my body. I'll have that sort of sensation. But it's hard for me to focus on looking at anything because anytime I look at something, I get vertigo. And
Your mic.
Yeah. Can you hear me better?
Not quite.
Is that a little better?
No.
No better now?
No, keep talking.
What is wrong with my mic?
No. Nope, I can't hear you.
Shit.
Keep talking, can't hear you.
Hello, check 1 2.
Okay, you're good.
Okay. So my sleep paralysis went away, but it did enable me to go out of body a little bit better. And when I go out of body, though, I get vertigo. So I try to look down, at stuff when I go out. Like I can tell when I get this sensation of rising out of my chest. And then what I try to do is turn around and look at the room so I can start exploring it. And once I do that, I get vertigo, like this real dizzy sensation, and I just snap back into my body.
But see, that's the thing I'm not sure about. this whole thing about being able to see the room and stuff, I
It's really
sometimes wonder if that's just based on my memory of what I remember the room to be like. Because I really can't say for certain that I actually ever saw the room, because I remember one time I had sleep paralysis and I swore up and down to myself that my eyes were open and that I was awake and that I was seeing the room. But then when I actually came out of the sleep paralysis, I realized my eyes weren't open. So it makes me wonder if I just perceived that I thought that I perceived the room based on my memory of what the room looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So Skyworks says, I think you just love for there to be other dimensions and a spirit reality. For me, I'm trying to be a scientist. If you're going to go into this stuff with the assumption that it's not real or it's not, then you're not going to learn anything, Skyworks. You can't go into stuff with a predetermined idea. Right now, I am agnostic. I don't know. And when you start with I don't know, then you can learn stuff. But you have to be open-minded. You have to open your mind to whatever it brings you. And it's fun. And it may turn out that it's just some sort of hallucination. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I'm willing to try to find out if it is. And if it's not, then it's not. Whatever it is won't really surprise me one way or the other. Like if it turns out that there's a spirit realm, then my whole philosophy goes out the window, Skyworks. My philosophy is there is no other realm. There's only this realm. That's what idealism is all about. There's only this reality.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in the spirit realm. I just think
That's dualism.
I just think there are state changes, and I do see it as different states of consciousness. But I will say, just because it's a different state doesn't mean it's not real, you know?
Right. And again, you got to define real. Like, what do we mean by real? You know, right now I'm having an experience right now that I can't explain. I can't explain just a very normal, absolutely mundane.
Well, when we're saying real, I think we'd be talking about an experience, you know, because without awareness, there is no experience. So any experience is real, I guess. Even if it's a hallucination, it's still a real experience.
Skyworks says, of course you are. Well, that's because you're a mind reader.
Of course.
And I don't.
What is he saying?
That I want to believe in other realms and spirits and souls and shit. Like, you don't know me, motherfucker.
I know. Like, why are you people so sure of everything? Like, you don't know shit.
You don't know a fucking thing. You just make these fucking accusations despite what I say because you're a fucking troll. That's all you are, is a fucking troll, man.
Why not just hop off the damn show if this so that totally disagrees with you, you know?
You're very scientific. I'm not a scientist, but I am scientific. Do you know what being scientific means? It means that you're willing to put away your beliefs, like, for example, the belief that there are no other realms. I can put those aside to do an experiment. I can put aside my beliefs. I believe there's only one realm. It's called reality. That's the only realm you need to believe in, because it's the one that I exist in. I don't believe in other realms. But hey, if there are other realms, I can put it aside to explore somehow. But, you know, you don't know me. You know, you don't know people to say that. You're just being a troll. That's all. I used to have out-of-body lucid dreams and would fly out my window around the neighborhood. Wow. It was always the same neighborhood, but not the one I lived in or had ever seen awake before. I see. Well, for me, if I experienced that, that would kind of tell me that it was a hallucination more than anything else. But there's a million other people that would say that they do see things, and I do talk to people who say that they do see reality as it is, and I'm like, I don't understand how that can be possible, but I'm willing to give it a try. For me, if I can experience it, it would mean a whole lot more. I don't really just base things off other people's experience. Like your experience is not going to be the same as mine.
Well,
So,
I mean, I can say that has happened to me at least once, what he's describing, but not only was I out of body in my neighborhood, I was looking in my friend's window, who I perceived with her phone in her hand, a white wife beater on, and blue shorts. And
yeah.
she was looking down in her phone, and it appeared to me that she was either scrolling or texting. And then in reality, I received a text from her, and it woke me up. And she said, "Could you come over? My dog's sick." And I said, "Well, that's funny because I'm already outside your window." And she said, "Well, come on in." And I was like, "Well, the problem is I'm not really outside your window, but you have on a white shirt and blue shorts, right?" And she's like, "Bitch, come in." And I'm like, "I'm not right there."
So that's what I'm talking about. There's people that have those sort of experiences, and to say that you're lying, or to say that, oh, you just wanted to believe that or something, only a troll would say that. Only somebody who's a motherfucking know-it-all believer would say that. They're just stuck in their own personal incredulity. You see, because it cuts both ways. It's like you can be skeptical, but to be a true skeptic means to really hold all conclusions and let the evidence lead you to where it goes. It's just that you've been brainwashed by your physicalist, atheist belief system to say,
So
oh,
now
these
he's
things
open-minded.
these things can't be possible. They cannot be possible. You've already made your mind up.
But the
So,
only way
it doesn't mean anything to me. That's just what you're saying is just meaningless at that point.
the only way you could make that kind of definite statement is you would have to be all-knowing and 100% understand the nature of reality, which I don't think anyone that is alive can do. So because I know that people like that exist, whenever I have my experiences, and it's been since I've been young, I write stuff down that happens to me, and everybody in my immediate environment has been witnesses to these things. So I know this shit really happened, and the people around me know that it really happened as well. So when I'm talking about it to you or to a stranger, then yeah, they can choose to believe me or not believe me. But the people around me, they have seen it happen in action and can verify it, by the way.
Yeah, it's no different than people saying that, if you're a trans person, you're just full of shit, because those aren't really your real experience. You don't really feel like you're a woman in a man's body. That's just you trying to get attention, or that's just you trying to get some kind of special privilege, or to feel politically correct, or whatever their theory is. You're just saying shit out of your personal incredulity. Because it doesn't happen to you doesn't mean it can't happen to anybody, and it's just kind of silly the way people operate that way.
I mean, I understand
it's
that
dogma.
I understand that we should be skeptic because, I don't necessarily believe Christians when they say God spoke to them or that there even is a God, but I believe that they may have that experience and that it's real to them. And, at the end of the day, I mean, it could be true, right?
Right.
I just don't believe it.
Right. That's the point. Like, I don't believe in spirits, souls, and other realms either. But to say that I do because I'm curious about the experience, because I'm testing it, because I'm willing to listen to other people, is just you trying to shut down the conversation. You just don't. It's like thought control. It's like people who want to shame you for even looking at these things. I just think it's funny. I just think it's hilarious because it's so inconsistent. But anyways, we're kind of getting off topic with the trolls. So let me get back to the vid.
and then come back and say, well, what does it say? Well, roses are red, or some simple phrase that would be easy to remember and to read. So yeah, that's that. You're doing exactly the right science-minded testing.
Absolutely. And so I'm actually hard-nosed about it and disbelieving until I have hard evidence for it. But at least this headset theory says it's possible. So since it's possible, we should really check it out. But the higher probability is just that it's, your brain got screwed up somehow. Your headset got screwed up. But if DMT is actually changing a parameter in the headset that says you were stuck with the 3 dimensions of space, but DMT is now taking you to 4 or 5, and it's just a parameter change, and we can actually see more dimensions than we had seen before. I certainly want to know that and find that out. So
what in evolution would have allowed that to even be accessible to us?
Well, what's interesting is when you look at, there are high energy theoretical physicists who are studying structures outside of space-time now, as you probably well know. They're called positive geometries, and the European Research Council has a 10 million euro initiative, and there are many high energy theoretical physicists and mathematicians finding structures outside of space-time. And when you look at these structures, they have some of the structures, something called the amplitude-hedron, has a parameter n, which when it's 4 corresponds to our space-time, 1 dimension of time, 3 dimensions of space. But these geometries then say, but we're not stuck with 4. You can have 10, a billion, a trillion. So your space-time is just n equals 4, but our geometries outside of space-time aren't stuck at 4. We can go anywhere you want. So already we're seeing in high energy theoretical physics a pointer to this may not be the only reality at n equals 4. The mathematics allows us to go to n equals whatever you wish. And 4, we got the cheap headset. We got the cheap model.
That's what I was told. And I'm telling you right now, what you just described is something that the tribes who actually do the rituals where I was in Costa Rica, and they're called sacred geometries. That's what they're called, sacred geometries. And in these sacred geometries, there are representations of dimensions that seemingly are infinite, but like I've described before, are like a deck of cards. They're like a deck of cards that go in all directions, but they're dimensions. Some of them larger, some of them smaller, some of them where the communication happens downward, but we're in a crappy dimension where we can't go upwards or outwards.
So he's saying that the shaman and the mystics are saying the same thing that Donald Hoffman's saying.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. That's kind of like a convergence in a way.
Well, I mean, the West takes forever to figure out shit that mystics already knew. So I don't know. It's not surprising.
Exactly. Skyworks again. Questioning your assumptions or beliefs and their validity makes a person a troll. What assumption did I make? What beliefs do I talk about?
Come on, stop being intellectually dishonest, Skyworks. You came in here being sassy and being sarcastic.
Yeah.
And you made statements as if you factually knew what someone else's motivation is. So own up to the bullshit or just ignore him, Scott, because he's either going to own up to it and stop acting that way, or all he's doing is distracting us from the show. So I'm not trying to be controlling, but like, fuck.
Yeah, I feel you. It's just that I wish these dudes would call in, because then you could actually understand instead of going this back and forth. Because
if you didn't know what he did, then we can't help him.
Yeah, because if you've been watching this channel, hearing me rant and talk about my bullshit, you'll understand that part of what I talk about is my unattachment to beliefs, not to make assumptions, to be skeptical, to question everything. That's my whole point. Even in this, I'll go so far as to even question the science and the other assumptions. So that's the whole point. But you're right. Let's just move on. And Skyworks, I invite you to call in, but of course you never will, because you're kind of on that vaginal thing. Anyways.
And so we have to be communicated with from above or beside.
Don, why are we in a crappy dimension? It's all your fault.
And listen, I was just like this. I thought the whole time I kept saying to myself, you're high. That's all I kept saying. But the more I talk to people like you, Don, and Brian Green and Jan 11, this stuff that I really didn't have any knowledge of is kind of the basis of the experience. I'm just saying.
Okay, so these positive geometrics, are they going to be the solution to what David Chalmers phrased as the hard problem of consciousness?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I think that the high energy theoretical physicists aren't trying to do that. They are trying to understand observation. So that's a big problem, open problem in quantum gravity right now, is especially the attempts to get quantum gravity that have forced mathematicians and physicists to say, you know what, we've never understood the observer, and it looks like that is the obstacle. We need to go back and really understand what an observer is. And that may be the key.
Yeah, but if you're going to take something we don't understand in the quantum realm, and then you're going to take consciousness, which we don't really understand in the neuroscience realm, staple them together and turn that into an explanation of something that you're going to trust, feels like very unstable ground to be standing on.
Completely. I agree. So I think that we can talk about observers without worrying about consciousness first. We can just ask, can we get a mathematical model of observation? And I think we can.
Yeah, but observers are conscious. That's how they do observation. But anyways, that's just kind of funny.
My own model right now that I'm working on, and it's a simple model of observation that doesn't assume consciousness or non-consciousness to be fundamental. It just is a mathematical model of observation. I personally think that consciousness is important and fundamental, but this mathematical model doesn't require that.
We've said so many times when we've come together, the three of us, that the problems that we're not able to solve right now, and now I'm a scientist, right? Exactly, thank you, requires different thinking. Right. Do you consider yourself now in that realm? And if you are, what different thinking are you looking at we now need to take, the measures that you need to bring forward that are different, that we haven't yet thought of?
Yes. So I think that we have to just think very, very clearly about what does it mean to observe. We need to get it to its bare essence, no extra bells and whistles. What is the absolute minimum essential for observation? Mm-hmm. We need to understand that mathematically. And then we have to ask, can we start with that and that alone to build up all of modern physics? So it's a new foundation. We don't start with space-time because we now know that space-time is doomed. That cannot be fundamental. It stops at the Planck scale. So what are the new foundations going to be? I think that Leibniz was right. Leibniz said we need to start with observation. He called them monads. And he said there had to be these monads that were somehow interacting and had some kind of mathematical pre-established harmony.
Just Leibniz was a mathematical philosopher, right? All credited with co-inventing calculus. Okay. Yes. And there was some dispute between him and, of course, my boy, Isaac Newton. But their discoveries are completely independent in the sense that they represent the calculus very with their symbology. In physics, we use a lot of Newtonian representation, but in math, it's all Leibniz's notations. Right. Gotcha. So the integral sign comes from him.
I mean, you mentioned the OGs of physics there. Are we likely through your research to find that there are slightly different laws of physics?
I'm sure the laws of physics would have to be dependent on your observation of them. Otherwise, you couldn't talk about them. Xmuse says, not true. Observers in double slit experience have also been measuring instruments and not conscious humans, which adds to the observer problem. Have also been measuring instruments and not conscious human. Well, it originates with conscious humans, though. All observation does, right? Or can you observe things without being conscious? And riddle me that.
That we weren't aware of?
Oh, I think not just slightly. I think that we will find that our headset is one of the more trivial headsets, and that other headsets have much more interesting physics.
But I want to set it straight here. The history of physics is not where the history of physics since Galileo is not where, oh, we all believe this, and then later on that's all wrong and we believe something else. That's not how it happens. We only believe something is true if it's been experimentally verified.
Right.
Then we find out there's a deeper truth. Get right in your bailiwick here. There's a deeper truth in which that's embedded,
right?
And that's just a special case.
Yeah, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Not at all.
Right.
And then there's an even deeper truth.
Absolutely.
So I don't have any hesitation thinking that my lame ass 3D candy ass headset is legit in its world, but it's a subset of a much larger truth.
Yeah, and that's kind of in a nutshell what Hoffman's talking about, is that, you know, the interfaces that we have are all limited in their own way. Skyward, do you feel that shamans paint a true picture of reality, or do they give a story that validates the experience of the psyches, minds of the tribe or group that placates the collective and keeps them? I don't know. Ultimately, fundamentally, I don't know. I kind of look at it like it's going to be a reflection of a person's internal psyche, is my own interpretation for now. I think when you do ayahuasca or DMT, is giving you a glimpse into your own mind rather than telling you anything about objective reality. But it may. That's the whole point, is that how can we test it? How can we find out? That's the question.
Well, I do think that psychedelics can lead to non-duality and make you have the realization that you're kind of part of the whole. So even though it is a personal subjective experience about your own mind, it's almost like macrocosm and microcosm kind of thing. You start to realize that you're just a fractal of all that is. Now that might not be true, but that is kind of the conclusion that most people come to and have been since the beginning of time.
Right. And the nature of consciousness is subjective.
Your mic, Scott, your mic.
I was going to say, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
I was going to say the whole nature of consciousness is subjectivity. You know, everything you experience is subjective. Anyway.
Your mic.
I don't think you can get out of the idea of our reality being subjective as far as the way we perceive it. All perception, and that's all we have is perception. So whether you're on DMT or not, you're having a subjective experience. That's the whole hard problem. How do you get to first person subjective experience from a third person objective reality? That's the question at hand. Does DMT paint any clues? For me, the only thing DMT sort of shows me is that reality is subjective, and in fact, you can tweak your brain to interpret that same reality in different ways. You know, that's what it tells me.
I'm sorry, what did he ask again?
He asked, do you feel that shamans paint a true picture of reality, or do they give a story that validates the experiences of the psyche, minds of the tribe or group that placates the collective and keeps them? In a way, no. In some ways, it doesn't, because a lot of these experiences are common despite the tribe. You know, people from other tribes experience the same thing. Like even people from America go down to South America and experience the snake and the garden and the aliens and all of these things we were just talking about. They're common experiences despite your culture. And you froze up again, Sophia. Do both of you accept that you are separate organisms with different accumulative experiences, or do you think you are one with each other and there is no separation at all? No, there's no separation, but there is a different experience, but that's not the same as ontological separation, if that's what you mean. That's my view. Brain damage produce all kinds of experience. Ever know anyone going through the DTs? They see weird beings too. Yep. Just like them UAPs, you know, those Air Force pilots could be just hallucinating all that stuff. You know, what we need is evidence. And that's what we're lacking with the UAP phenomena. Like, I want to believe in aliens and stuff, but you got to have evidence, not just stories and anecdotes. Like, you can go to Congress and talk about the same anecdotes all day long, but it's just stories, man. It's not really real. You need evidence. Yeah, none of that proves consciousness is emergent at all.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm sorry. My internet was tripping and I'm trying to keep up with these comments. Did you go over this one yet? It says, do both of you expect that you are separate organisms with different accumulative experiences? Or do you think you're one with each other and there is no separation at all? So the way that I would say it is, what I think is, I compare it to a tree with roots. And a tree has branches and leaves, and reality sort of unfolds, and we have a certain amount of agency and free will, but it's limited.
Yeah. I think that we're disassociated, but I'm disassociated from this body. You know, when I was, I'm not the same person I was even last year, but it doesn't mean that I'm not one with who I was last year, if that makes sense. Like, I'm still the same person, you know.
It's had some state changes.
Yeah, state changes, exactly.
And that doesn't mean you separate from the source either. That's why I used the tree analogy.
Right.
Like your thumb knows nothing about your other thumb, right? And both thumbs are part of your one body.
Yeah. I stop remembering stuff all the time. I can't always remember my dreams, for example, but ontologically it comes from the same mind. So It's all oneness. So why just limit it to that? It's the same. I think that's the same thing that's going on with all conscious experience, on my view, is that we're just disassociated. We're not tightly correlated. Like, there's no correlation it's tight, because, you know, we're separated in that way.
Well, I wouldn't say it's an illusion, because, like, it's kind of like how every body part is connected to the same neural network, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's an illusion, because he said, so there's one stuff in your individual experience is an illusion, and the appearance of individual items or objects. No, it's not a trick of the mind. It's an actual state change, and it's not an illusion. It's like, I mean, like we see in nature, right? We have organisms that can replicate themselves, right? Or organisms that can give birth without impregnation, without being impregnated, right?
Uh-huh.
We have organisms that can multiply themselves, right?
Yep.
So in my model, consciousness imposes things upon itself, and it has the ability to multiply, obviously. I mean, I'll say obviously, but it's obvious according to my model. So it's not an illusion.
Yeah, it's definitely real. You know, it's like even if it was an illusion, I'm not even sure how illusion would even change anything, even if it was, because even an illusion is an experience that you're having. Maybe by illusion, you say you're not seeing reality as it really is. Well, I don't think anybody knows how reality really is. We're just kind of stuck in our subjective interpretation of things.
Yeah, I don't think that we can comprehend the totality of reality.
Right. And you know, even and there's a feedback loop of perception that would say that, you know, the way that your internal states are, like your expectations and things like that, get projected on your subjective reality, how you perceive reality to be. So if you have an expectation of, you know, seeing certain things, you know, seeing people act a certain way, then you're definitely going to be more cued into seeing that. It's like people who see certain numbers all the time. Like if they're just really like one of these numerology type people that say, you know, every time I look at a clock, I see 1111. It's like they're only going to count the hits and never the misses. It's because internally, that's what they expect to see. They always expect to see 1111.
Hey, now, I disagree.
You do? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because that's not how it happens for me. When I see a specific number sequence over and over, something ends up manifesting in reality. And it's almost like my nervous system already picks up on it before my brain registers it. And because of that, I start noticing numbers which could be representative of a frequency, kind of like tuning into a radio channel.
Mm-hmm.
And my nervous system tunes in before it catches up with my brain. And then usually something manifests in reality and a specific person calls me or shows up at my door or sends a message.
I have had that experience before. Now I have to admit, I've had experiences like that, and I usually try to explain it away. Oh, that's a coincidence. But like one time, maybe it's a coincidence. 2 times, it's maybe a coincidence. But when it keeps happening, it becomes a pattern.
Yeah, and
I've seen those patterns. I'm not even gonna lie. And I don't really talk about those patterns because I can't really explain why I'm falling it. But, you know, it runs in my family. Like I see my mom, like I told you that story, how my mom sees things and patterns and stuff. And I do too. And I'm just the kind of person, I'm so skeptical, I gaslight myself to say, I'm not seeing anything. I'm my mind playing tricks on me. But honestly, yeah. It's like maybe it's hyper skepticism. I don't know. Everybody can decide.
I do that. I used to do that to myself, but
yeah, that's what I try to avoid.
Well, okay, I can explain that Exy Music. He said, but you don't register the same ones where the person doesn't show up at the door. Confirmation bias. So it's not necessarily confirmation bias. I describe my nervous system the way that my nervous system developed through trauma. I describe it as an alarm system. And the way that I adapted to my environment, I learned early on to detect danger through my nervous system in a way that some other people won't, because they didn't have a need to. So it's not that it's confirmation bias, it is an alarm system. And when my nervous system picks up on something, it's like tripping that alarm system. Kind of like, think of a security guard. He's sitting in front of his monitor. The alarm gets tripped, and then he gets up and he has to check the perimeter, right? So my nervous system responds to danger. The person that would pop up was someone that was actually dangerous and had ill will towards me, and very obsessively was stalking me and things like that. So my nervous system picked up on it. Simple as that. It's not mystical. It's how the nervous system can adapt. Kind of like an animal that can instinctively pick up on vibrations in the ground before some major storm or something or earthquake comes along. I would compare it to that. It's kind of like an instinct. It's not necessarily mystical at all.
He says, yes, got that, but do you ever have the alarm and no one is there?
Well, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be that someone pops up at my door. It can be that that person ends up calling me or texting me. They may not even be in my vicinity.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the funny thing about experiences. It's just like with synesthetics and like a lot of autistic kids that can't speak, they start to register reality a lot different, radically different than most people. And so a lot of people will dismiss them because it's not part of their experience. But what needs to happen is people need to study stuff like that and really try to figure out what's going on, because I don't think people just make stuff up. I mean, they do, but I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
people
think
do
that's
make stuff
always
up,
the case.
but I mean, there are studies that suggest that intuition is a real thing. That people who rely on intuition generally make better choices, and intuition isn't something that's tangible, really, right? But we know we have it, and I think we all have had intuitive hits and had gut feelings and things like that. But that goes back to the fact that, just like the octopus, we have several neural networks, not just the brain. The heart is considered a brain, and your gut is too. So it makes sense. It makes biological sense. And he's asking me again, ever have the alarm? No, never. Every single time that happens, there is something that manifests in reality that gives me confirmation as to why I had the feeling. Because I actually have real somatic feelings that I experience whenever I feel it right now. I wonder why. Interesting. Makes me wonder who the hell is talking to me right here. That's strange. I never had that happen on camera. Anyway, that's how it works.
So he has another comment. By the way, I have had 2 premonitions that saved my life and surprised the people around me that witnessed it and heard me relate my premonition before it happened. But I don't try to explain.
Well, you get to the point where you have this happen to you enough times, and if you explain it, yes, people will dismiss you over and over, but I'm just to the point where I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to lie about who I am and what my experiences are. Not only that, sharing my experiences may help other people who have those experiences and feel ostracized. You know what I mean? So I don't shy away from criticism or people who don't believe me, because I don't care if they do or not. At the end of the day, this is my own protective mechanism that I rely on that has gotten me this far. So I'm not going to dismiss it for anyone. Your belief or the next person's belief on my nervous system and how I operate is irrelevant. And that's how you step into your own sovereignty and authenticity. Simple as that. That's just how I see it.
Amen. And Skyworks says it's a safety mechanism developed so as not to fall into the same trap or to guard against having similar experience.
Yeah, you could see it like that. But
that's like training.
Before I knew what it was, you're going to laugh at that one. It's kind of fucked up, though. before I knew what it was, I thought I had a soul bond with that person and thought that was my soulmate. And the whole time I was dealing with a psychopath who was trying to kill me. So yeah, get a load of that shit. So it took me a while to realize what this actually was.
Yep. X-Music says, I'm coming to your door right now. That's why he had that feeling.
Shut the hell up.
Well, let's get back on to the
Hold on,
video.
let me go check my door now.
Yeah, exactly. What you're saying is exactly where I'm headed. I want to show that I can start with a theory of observation, precise, mathematical, and get quantum gravity as a special case without hand waves. So theorem and proof, theorem and proof. So I decided to take Leibniz very, very seriously, and let's get a mathematical model of observation that's as simple as possible and see where this pre-established harmony might arise. And the simplest idea that I can think of is forget consciousness. I'm just talking observation, not consciousness. Okay. So observation, you have outcomes. So you have a list of possible outcomes and changes. I see this outcome and now I'm seeing that outcome. And that's it. I just want to say observation involves outcomes and possible changes of outcomes. And what's the minimum mathematics that we can use to represent that kind of observer? It's a matrix that says, here's a list of all your outcomes, and here's a list of probabilities. If you see outcome 1, what's the probability that you'll see outcome 2 next, or outcome 3, outcome 4, and so forth? You just write down a matrix of all the outcomes and how they might change. And that's called a Markov chain, a Markov matrix. And what I've discovered is a new logic that unites all Markov chains. So I'm saying my notion of observer is a Markov matrix, which shows the observation outcomes and how they might change. The set of all possible Markov matrices is the set of all possible observers. That's it. It's an infinite class. And I discovered a logic 2 years ago that has never been seen before. It's based on something that is well known, that if I have one matrix and I can only see a subset of its states, so I got a big 10 by 10 matrix, for example, but I can only see 3 states. The big matrix will induce an apparent matrix on the 3 by 3. So it's called the trace. So for example, if you're at a light and you see red, green, and yellow, and you're seeing them change, and someone else can only see red and green, well, the red and green transitions are determined by the red, green, and yellow transitions, but you can't see the yellow, so you're going to get a different matrix for the red and green. And that's called the trace. It's a unique thing. If I give you a big matrix and say, you can only see this little window, then there's a unique matrix called the trace. And that's been known for a long time. It's a zero surprise matrix. And what I discovered is the property of being a trace gives you a logic on the set of all Markov chains. It's a non-Boolean logic that gives you the pre-established harmony that Leibniz was looking for. And so what we're doing now, I've got a team that's working on the mathematics of this. We want to show that with this trace logic, and it's a recursive. If you know, this gets technical. It's recursive trace logic. We can build agency out of it, but then we can show that the idea is we can then show how to build exactly space-time to get quantum theory, space-time, and so forth from this.
Well, that's quite ambitious,
Man,
there.
I got to tell you, that's first of all, I need some weed right now.
No,
That's
I'm not gonna lie, because
you took Chuck to the ledge there. Now you need some weed.
You took me to the place where I'm just like, damn. But
I'm not gonna lie, like I was like, I don't know if it's my attention span or what, because I kind of got lost a little bit. I ain't gonna lie.
I'm not good at mathematics, so he lost me there too. Like, math is not my thing, but I'm just glad somebody's out there trying to put it together.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems like apparently it seems reasonable to most of these people. So
It's a really good panel. I like how they are open-minded, especially Neil, because Neil can be really like, hell no, nope, don't want to hear it, nope. And I'm also surprised at the other guy, the comedian.
Yeah.
Because he actually, it's just refreshing to see that they are even willing to entertain it.
Yeah, it's a big win for idealism. You know, it's like him coming on the show and getting that kind of exposure, it kind of reminds me of Michael Levin work, like somebody's trying to put it in the language of science and math to really, get it understood by the scientific community, which I think is just another way of talking about it, which I think is interesting. I like stuff like that. I like anything that can turn over the apple cart in either direction.
Yeah.
The only thing that really, and I'm not going to pretend like I really followed everything you said, except that this larger representation is not necessarily made up, but is affected by the smaller representations that you're able to see. The same way when you're looking at a light change, on the one side, you see the light change from green to yellow to red, but it's the exact same transaction that's happening to somebody who only sees the light change from red to green, but they are inexorably tied together. Am I following this?
They're in the same matrix.
And in the same matrix.
Okay.
Okay,
I got you.
Exactly right. And I'll just pick up on that because that will give you just a little clue about how this can get us towards Einstein's theory of relativity. What we do is standard in Markov chain theory to have a counter. Every time your observation changes, you increment a counter, right? So I see red. Okay, that's 1. Green. Okay, 2. Yellow. 3. So you just keep counting like that. Now, just think about the counter for the guy that can see red, green, and yellow versus the counter of the guy that only sees red and green. The red-green guy, his counter isn't going to go as fast because it doesn't see the yellows, right?
The place you call home is important to you, so it's important to Allstate. Home is where you make all your best memories.
Come on.
All right, Scott, now, can you break this down in layman terms? Because I don't think I fully get it yet.
Yeah, let me get past these dumbass commercials. Yeah, so I'm going to try. So I think what he's saying is that everybody's seeing the same process from different points of view. Some people are going to only be able to register maybe 2 things in the Markov chain. Like they're going to see either yellow or red or green. Those are 2. But there's some people who are going to be able, depending on their way of perceiving, are going to be able to see more of the process. They'll see like from the green to the yellow to the red. So it's sort of like, have you ever seen that movie Flash?
So isn't that like, wouldn't that be like what it states in my model that time and space is a focal point of consciousness and each manifestation or physical manifestation is yet another focal point of consciousness? And
yes,
on each physical manifestation's level of awareness is what or how they will perceive reality.
That's exactly right. And it's all part of the same matrix, in the way that he's putting the matrix together. So in other words, everyone's part of the same matrix, but not everybody's seeing all the numbers in the process. It's kind of like the way I'm envisioning it, like if you ever seen that movie Flash, where he's, people are trying to beat up Flash, but Flash is so fast, he's able to dodge bullets.
Yeah. Like Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah, he's able to punch everybody, like he's able to go punch 10 people before they even make one move. It's because he's able to see so much within his time frame that he's able to move with more control within that space of time. But other people are only able to perceive time in a slower way.
Right, he's ahead of the game.
Yeah, so to them it looks like miracles. It looks like, wow, what a miracle. This guy's able to run so fast. It's really not a matter of speed and locality. It's just a matter of the kind of interface he's working from.
Right.
And that he's able to just count so many steps ahead of everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's kind of the way I understand it, I guess.
Exactly.
That, we claim, will lead directly to time dilation in Einstein's relativity.
I'm going to tell you something else. You might need some weed. No.
So Don, where else can you point this trace logic? Is it just
wait? He just spent 10 minutes talking about the Matrix. We got to go to the movie.
Yeah,
okay?
man. Because honestly, go ahead.
Let's just.
I love it.
We can't just sidestep.
That's right.
The Matrix movie,
especially since he's literally describing.
Especially since it's my favorite movie.
Oh, okay. Well, that's another reason.
You got one of those sweaters that's full of holes.
Okay. So when that movie came out in 1999, there was no. It was new to many people, but no one questioned the capability of an intelligent enough system for making you think you're experiencing anything it wants to without regard to what is happening external to your physicality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a headset of a sort. That's what's the metaphor again? A VR headset of a sort, except we're going directly to the neurons. We're not even using your senses. We're not. And so could you just comment on the foundational theme of humans being alive and living out their lives in their own minds and not in their bodies?
And also how dreamy Keanu Reeves is.
So, the Matrix is...
What's a level of awareness? Is it the depth of one's perception or the scope of ideas and beliefs one takes to be true? That's a kind of a good question. But I think what Donald Hoffman's talking about is depth of perception.
Yeah.
But I think there are other ways you can talk about it, like when it comes to ideas and beliefs. I think that's one way you could talk about it, but I don't think that's.
You could also say that those two are closely connected because the more depth there is to your perception, the broader your scope of ideas and beliefs will be. So I think they would go hand in hand, kind of. Because think of someone that's sleepwalking. I would be highly surprised if they came up with a math equation or something while they're sleepwalking, as opposed to the person that's awake.
Like the example I'm thinking of in my own experience, in my own personal life experience, and this was what my master Yamamoto, when I was in Yoshikai martial arts, I had a problem that they would stack all these wooden boards up. And part of our training was to advance one of the things with the board breaking challenge. So I had to break through 3 stacked up boards, and it got to the point where you had to also cut through bricks with your hands or your feet or something like that, or your shin, the shin of your leg. I had to kick through boards with your shin. But when I first started learning how to break through the boards, I could never do it, and I would hit it harder. No matter how hard I would hit it, I could never break the board. In fact, I was scratching up my knuckles. I busted my hand one time, and I was one of the students who could never get past that hurdle, and it was really hard for me to advance from yellow belt to another belt, because I could never figure that out. And then my master Yamamoto told me, no, it's all in your mind. It's all in your visual. You don't break the board by hitting harder. You break the board because you have to visualize punching past the board. You have to visualize a board behind the board. Try to break that one. Don't try to break the one in front of you. Try to break the imaginary one that's sitting behind it. And when I did that visualization, I didn't have to hit the board hard at all. All I had to do was visualize I'm trying to break that board that's 2 inches behind the main one. And all of a sudden, I was breaking boards like a motherfucker. And so I was using that same principle when it came to doing all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it was almost like that kind of ties in what you're talking about, ideas and beliefs. So I had to believe I was punching through the board to get to some other board. And that was the secret to striking. I mean, that's the only kind of example.
Right, but that to me sounds a little bit fantastical, and I'm not trying to be an asshole.
No, I hear you. It
I
kind
know
of
there's,
down
I
that
know
way.
there's physics behind why you're actually being able to bust through that board, because it's the way that the energy goes through the board, I guess, or the force.
Well, it is.
The force.
It absolutely is.
I will say, by visualizing that you're going through the board, you removed all of your own
blocks.
blocks.
It's what Master
Believing
Yamamoto
that you can do it in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, Master Yamamoto would tell me that basically you've got a mental block that's telling you can't punch through the board.
Right.
And even though you think you're punching harder, you're still not letting yourself do it.
You wasn't letting yourself go.
Yeah, you're not letting yourself go. So you have to use visualization to get yourself past that block. You know,
And
that
I could imagine that you would also feel a certain amount of fear because hell, that shit hurts like hell. Like if someone told me punch through a board, I probably wouldn't hit it as hard as I could out of fear of breaking my hand, right?
Exactly. That's the point. See, that's the thing. So you have to not let that fear stop you from going for it. You have to do it, you know.
So your mic. So I guess when you remove that mental block, you actually delivered the necessary force that was needed.
That's right. So like that's a good point, Skyworks. You say, can a person's level of awareness encompass misunderstandings or false belief? That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like I had a belief that I couldn't punch through that board, right? That was a false belief. But by changing my level of awareness, like visualization of another board that I'm trying to get at, well, that belief helped me to overcome the belief that was blocking me.
But how did you change your level of awareness?
By just visualization.
No,
by believing.
Your teacher exposed you to it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep. Without him, I would have never thought that up.
So yeah, I mean, you can be stuck in a level of awareness that prevents you from seeing something more. And it's not until someone exposes you to it or you learn from 5,000 mistakes or whatever that, you know, something has to happen for you to raise your level of awareness.
Right. Like my son had a really good math teacher. Like my son used to be really horrible at math. And he used to cry whenever we did homework together. He would cry and I'd get so mad at him because he wouldn't focus on his fucking work. And I'd be like, damn it, man, it's so simple.
I used to be like that. I have ADHD.
I lost my patience. You know, I was never good at it because I'd lose my patience with him and I just have to give up on him. But then he had a tutor that gave him a trick to doing math. And so he changed his level or approach to his awareness. And so he was aware of doing math in a whole different format. And so that changed everything. Like that little trick. That math teacher was smart because she came up with like just a little trick to help the math make better sense to him. Like all my screaming and yelling and losing my temper wasn't helping him. You know, but
yeah, that just makes it worse. That puts
makes
you
him nervous. Yeah. And I could never get through to his hard head how to figure stuff out. But she figured out a way very simple to make math fun and easy to where he could understand it better.
Yeah, I had an experience like that with math because when I was a kid, I was highly afraid of math to the point where I started feeling lightheaded and everything. All the numbers would get scrambled like they're melting away and shit. It was really bad. I would have like a full-blown anxiety attack. But it's because I had a math teacher who would always put me in front of the class and then put me on the spot and make me work out the problem on the board. And I had a real issue with being in front of an audience and being put on the spot like that. And so I would get all this nervous anxiety, and I couldn't do the problem anymore, even if it was something as simple as 5 + 5. It just, the numbers would start melting and scrambling, and I couldn't do it. And so then everyone would start laughing, and I would feel stupid. And that whole experience made me have a serious fear of math. And I want to say all the way up until I was like 18, I just really couldn't do math without feeling anxiety, you know? And it was not until I got around 18 that my dad, you know, told me, you know, there's no reason to have any kind of fear of math. He said, you know how to count your money, right? You go to the store and you're counting your money all the time and you're not afraid, right? And he just started showing me different perspectives, and I lost my fear of math. And I started realizing why I even had fear in the first place, because it wasn't the math. It was the fact that I was put on the spot.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, it's almost like when someone's really pressuring me, that's when you get nervous and you freeze up. And that's when your stupid brain turns on.
Yeah.
And you can't really do anything. But if you're relaxed, if you're in a more relaxed state, then you can perform a whole lot better. But you just have to figure out a way to be more relaxed. And sometimes, like, I realize me, you know, screaming at my son and really getting mad with him wasn't helping. You know, it was actually making it worse, you know.
Oh, you learned that real quick as a parent.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I mean, I still yell at my kids. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I do, but it just goes out of one ear and out the other. They're not gonna listen to that shit. You know,
kids are resilient.
They just tune your ass out whenever you get too loud.
That's right.
My favorite movie at the time as well. I wrote
it's still my favorite movie.
It is. It probably still is, actually. I wrote a book in 1998, just the year before The Matrix came out, called Visual Intelligence: How We Create What We See. Exactly this stuff. So that's why I was so taken with The Matrix, because it was exactly what I was talking about in visual intelligence. And it gets very, very weird. Neurons. So I'm a neuroscientist, and I study neuroscience, and I'm all for neuroscience. We have 86 billion neurons, trillions of synapses, and yet I say that neurons do not exist when they're not perceived. So what are neurons? They are a headset representation of how our headset is engineered. So neurons are a headset representation of how our headset is being created. So neuroscience is much harder than we thought. Mm-hmm. We don't just have to understand the wiring and the physiology. That's just the baby beginning. Now we have to reverse engineer it and ask, what is the software outside of space-time, which when you project it into space-time looks like neurons and synapses and physiology. So we have a really hard task ahead of us.
Long-lasting battery life from the Dell XPS, you can stay plugged in even when you're unplugged.
This is the fake ad you see everywhere, right? But this is Ebony, a real game. Now, I know what you're thinking. Aren't they exactly the same? No, because Ebony is the real number gate runner game. Got to try it, huh? Nobody ever believes me, but this really is just like the ad.
As long as...
And this is the challenge to our credulity, is to say that things aren't really there when you're not perceiving them. That comes across sounding incredible, but I think that if you're trying to investigate a theory that Hoffman has on the table, you try to do an internal logic to it. So it's just, you know, you have to kind of like step away from your intuitions or your normal way of understanding how things work normally. And that's the challenge, you know, that's part of the challenge is selling this idea. But, you know, that's the issue, I think. But I'm real curious to see what they got to say about that.
We're thinking we're stuck inside space-time. We're actually missing the real science that's ahead of us. The real science is space-time is a trivial headset. Let's get on with the job of reverse engineering it and understanding the first layer of software that's outside of it. I think the positive geometries that the high-energy theoretical physicists are finding are a first step. And I'm hoping to show that their positive geometries are actually so-called subgeometries of the Markov polytope that I'm working with.
All I was asking was, do you think, as portrayed in The Matrix, you could meddle in someone's head and make them think they're living out their entire lives?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Once you understand the software, you can play and you can do miracles. If you think about it, if you wrote, suppose you're the wizard in Grand Theft Auto, so you can drive the car as fast as anybody, you can play all the game and play all the rules inside the game. But suppose you're a geek who can't really drive, but you wrote the software. You wrote the software of the game. Well, you can turn the expert, the wizard's car into a donkey. You can do whatever you want. So once you know the software, you can do magic. And my guess is, not just a guess, if this approach is correct, when we start to understand the software outside of our space-time headset, the technologies will be mind-blowing. Everything that we have right now will be trivial compared to the technologies we will have.
That'll be the next season of Black Mirror, where you get inside the brain. And it's a whole set of plot lines right there.
And you know what? I mean, can we for a second, because there's a lot of people, we live in a very polarized, divisive time.
Sure.
And so,
unlike the Second World War or the First World War
or the Revolutionary War or the Civil War
or the Civil War
or the Vietnam War.
Yeah, we're uniquely divisive. Chuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Why did he say divisive? I could have sworn it was divisive.
Yeah, he I don't know what he's getting at. He just mentioned that. Want me to back it up a little bit?
No, I'm just making sure that I've been saying that word right.
Oh, yeah, divisive, like divisive. Everybody has a different accent.
So you can say divisive? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, divisive, divisive. Tomato.
Okay. I guess there's something new to learn in English every day.
That's right.
I mean, however, I will say that, the difference is in all those times, we didn't have this constant influence of manipulation called visuals in phones and social media and algorithms.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to hear what you think about the power that these things possess, not only individually, but societally.
I'm going to re-ask that with fewer words.
Oh, okay.
In what way has the algorithm hijacked our evolutionary proclivities?
Oh, damn! I gotta leave now. I'm so ashamed of my question.
Did I capture what you
captured it all in one phrase?
There you go.
I hope they still play the whole question I asked, though, just so that people can see that you captured it all in one phrase. Yes.
Well, great question, and actually quite pertinent.
In other words, are we humping the beer bottle?
Hey, man, stop doing my job.
I'm allowed 2 jokes per episode. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
The background that I have in neuroscience and evolutionary biology and evolutionary game theory has made me of interest to various companies because they asked me to help them with their marketing and advertising and product design because I know the rules of the game. And so I'll give you a concrete, there's lots of examples. I'll just say at top level, we know how to manipulate your attention to make you want things that you don't even know that we're doing. So the answer is yes. Once you know the rules of the game, you can play them, and companies pay me to do that. It's out there. I'll just give you a fun one though, but there are many. Jeans, denim jeans.
Mm-hmm.
Your visual system has rules for how you create 3D objects. How do you create 3D shapes? So this is all part of the headset software. And shading gradients and lines and so forth are used by the visual system to create 3D shapes. When you put on jeans and they have distress, they're trying to make them look distressed and so forth, and they have stitching, and you are telling a 3D story about the body of the person who's wearing those jeans. The only question is, do you, as the clothing manufacturer, understand what story you're telling? And is it the story that you want to tell? Are you giving the person pancake butt when you didn't want to do that? Or are you making them look good? So I went to these jeans companies. Well, they came to me actually. And so I showed them, I said, look, here, you're creating pancake butt, but here's how you can change the distress so that all of a sudden you can make any shape rear end that you want.
Nice.
And I remember the CEO of one company, when I was giving the presentation, I won't mention the company, he jumped out of his chair, ran up to the slide screen that I was showing how I did this, and he said, our jeans make my butt look terrible. And so they bought it. I showed them how to do it, and they then went and made the stitch jeans different and the distress different. And you can make any shape that you want once you know how to do it. So this stuff is
wow. So he's hired by advertisers to use his theory in order to manipulate what people want to buy and stuff like that. Those bastards. They're using these theories to make them money. So that's kind of interesting, but I can see how it works because if you know the rules of the game, you can play it to manipulate people and get what you want. That's kind of cool.
Power suggestion.
Yeah, the power of suggestion, man. That's wild though. But it makes sense that it's no real different than any other advertising rules and stuff. You know,
being used. Once you know the rules of the headset, you can play the game and no one knows that you're doing it.
It's funny because the same thing happens similarly in nature. The reason why zebras have stripes is because they herd, and when they are being hunted and they run, all the stripes visually confuse the lion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Humans
I've
think
seen a whole lot of zebra legs up.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Humans think they're quite smart.
I should have had more stripes. God. I knew I needed more stripes.
Humans think they're really smart. Some of them do anyway. And we can manipulate each other as we've just discussed.
Yes.
Okay. And we can write code like in Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
But ultimately, who is writing and in charge of this holistic, this consciousness, this place you're trying to get to through your trace logic?
There is no top to the trace logic, which is really quite interesting. These Markov matrices go off to infinity in any direction that you want, and there's no top to it. So there is a pre-established harmony like Leibniz envisioned. They're all tied together with this trace logic, but there is no top, which is quite stunning.
In what ways
but that's a slap in the face to God. God's at the top. You're telling me there's no God at the top? What is he saying? Saying nature's everything? What? That's crazy.
Maybe it just does
theologians.
Huh?
Maybe it just does what it does.
Yeah, it do what it do, man.
Approached you as someone who's opening up a box where they can put their God.
Representatives from almost every kind of religion have approached me because I'm saying that in some sense, observation is fundamental. And it's very, very close in spirit to those who want to say consciousness is fundamental. I myself think consciousness is fundamental, but I don't have to say that for this mathematics. The mathematics can just be observation, period.
You've made that point. It's an important point. Otherwise, you're intertwined with something else that needs an explanation. Why complicate your account?
Exactly. As far as science is concerned, I'll just call it observation, period. And we need, any scientist would say, absolutely, we need a theory of observation. Bring it on. Whereas consciousness is more controversial. My own view, though, about the spiritual aspects is it comes down to a very fundamental thing about science itself. And that is this very, very simple point. Every scientific theory starts with assumptions, period. It says, if you grant me these assumptions, then I can explain all this other wonderful stuff. But no theory explains its own assumptions. Now, you can say, well, I'll give you a deeper theory that explains the assumptions of that previous theory. Yes, you can. And your deeper theory will have its own assumptions.
It's turtles all the way down.
Right.
It's turtles all the way down. And so there will never be a theory of everything in principle, because we'll never have a theory that explains its own assumptions. So there is no theory of everything.
That's Gödel's incompleteness theorem right there.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a Gödel's incompleteness theorem, so it's a scientific incompleteness theorem as well. So when we sometimes talk about the God of the gaps, well, I'm a scientist. I love science. I love the rigor of science. We do not assume that our assumptions are true in science. We assume that our assumptions are consistent.
I think that's a really good point to talk about, because with a lot of people we talk to that are very scientistic, they think science is the answer to everything. And if it's not verified, and accounted for by science, then it's meaningless. But that's called the verification principle in science. But even the verification principle can't be verified. How do you verify the verification principle itself? It always it's always based on an assumption. We're just assuming that stuff. And I think this is important to understand, what we're talking about on these shows, because a lot of people just assume science has the answer to everything, and there's no question that needs to be answered,
Yeah. Sorry, I've been distracted by a lot of stuff in here. But shit, I lost my train of thought because my daughter just tripped over the scale.
Verification. Yeah, like everything. He was talking about, how every scientific theory is based on an assumption. The theory itself doesn't explain the assumption.
No, I get that. I just forgot what I was going to say. Child, what are you doing? I was going to say something. Never mind.
Okay, I'll just keep it rolling.
We know that they're never the final truth. We're always going to have some deeper layer to go to. What we have to assume is not that we have the truth, but that we have a consistent set of starting assumptions. If they were not consistent, then we could prove anything.
And that's why scientists don't murder one another for their findings.
Generally, that's correct.
Generally.
Yeah. There are no marauding scientists on the front line. E equals MC cubed, not squared.
And so we're infinitely far from a theory of everything. So I'm not worried about a God of the gaps. Science is infinitely far from a theory of everything. And so I don't have a theory of God. And I'm not a God of the gaps kind of guy.
Well, God of the Gaps has been replaced by aliens. You don't understand something as aliens. And so Aliens of the Gaps doesn't have the same ring to it.
No.
So in my book, I coined the phrase aliens of our ignorance.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right, Don, what's the timeline on this research, which is ironic seeing as space-time is doomed? Do you have a timeline to watch? I know. That's how many dimensions in that one. So do you have a timeline for the work that you're undertaking now?
Yes, I have a group. We're starting something called the Trace Research Institute, and it's going to be coming out in June, actually. We're being announced in June. And I have some mathematicians and physicists working with me. And we have 8 specific mathematical conjectures that I'm hoping to prove in the next 3 years. So that's sort of the goal, to have these proven in the next 3 years. And the idea would be we start with this trace logic on observers and show exactly how we get first special relativity, then general relativity, quantum field theory, non-locality, and so forth. And then, so that's the idea, is to start to reverse engineer our space-time headset by starting with observers that could build a space-time headset, but they could build almost anything else. And that's the key point. Observers can build any headset that they want. Space-time is one of the more trivial ones. It's only 4 dimensions.
Wow.
He just dissed humans right there.
Well, we are very dissable. I gotta say.
Have you looked around lately?
we really are dissable.
Well, actually, I'll turn that around now. I'll say something about you and me. We are not our avatars. These bodies in 3-dimensional space, 1 dimension of time, there's a Neil avatar, there's a Chuck, and then Don, and all these avatars are just avatars. You're not your avatar. This is just an avatar in a headset. So this is where it does sound spiritual. Now, whoever you are, whatever you are, it's not something inside space and time. Space and time is inside you. That's your creation on the fly. You're rendering your body. So my hand is something I render on the fly when I look at my hand.
That's interesting. It kind of reminds me of like the thing about we don't have awareness. We are awareness, that we're just aware of these bodies and these personalities and these selves that we construct, but what's more fundamental to that is the awareness,
So in other words, we are awareness expressing ourselves through an interface?
Yep, pretty much. That's exactly what he's saying. Because he's saying that he's just using the headset as the analogy of the interface. And he's just saying that, the interface is being created, by something else, not necessarily.
Like what?
Yeah, like, let me back up. He said it really good. Let me back it up a little bit.
You and me, we are not our avatars. These bodies in three-dimensional space, one dimension of time, there's a Neil avatar, there's a Chuck, and then Don, and all these avatars are just avatars. You're not your avatar. This is just an avatar in a headset. So this is where it does sound spiritual. Now, whoever you are, whatever you are, it's not something inside space and time. Space and time is inside you. That's your creation on the fly. You're rendering your body. So my hand is something I render on the fly when I look at my hand. And with that, otherwise there is no hand. The hand is just a headset avatar representation.
Is there a way
So yeah, does that make sense? Because I guess what he's saying is, there is a thing about the identity there that can throw you off too, though, because when you say you are creating it, that sounds a little weird because I can't just imagine anything and change my avatar, if that's what he's going to call my body and personality or whatever. I guess what he's saying is nature is the you.
I just think it's weird. Like, I'm not sure if I agree with that because he's like, oh, I'm rendering my hand.
Right.
And I'll turn around and look at my hand, but there is no hand. And I'm like, nah, that's not true. Like, whether you look at your hand or not, that hand's still there, right?
Right. It's kind of it's definitely not going to play well with our common understanding of stuff. So Skyworks says, when Donald Hoffman achieves immortality and is able to maintain his existence after death, I might take notice of him if he feels time and space can be overcome.
Yeah, and I think that he's not speaking about like your individual psyche.
Right.
I think he's just saying that what's fundamental continues, but you as your individual subjective experience does not. So fundamentally, you're not this body. That's what he's saying.
Right, because from what I understand, Donald Hoffman doesn't believe in immortality. He doesn't believe in existence after death. From what I know about Donald Hoffman, he rejects those sort of things. I think it's just easy to sort of.
That's why I like. I describe it differently. Like when he says you are not, like you're not inside of time and space, and time and space is inside of you, or however the hell he said that. I just think the way I would describe it again is if consciousness has the intrinsic ability to observe itself, just like you can observe yourself, like you can think to yourself and be aware of your own thoughts, right? And then you also have the ability to focus in on one particular thought. And that thought could be, oh, I want to make pancakes. Right? And then once you focus on that thought in such a way that it becomes an action, now you commit the act and you make the pancakes and you just created that reality. That's how I look at it. So consciousness has the intrinsic ability to observe observe itself, and each physical manifestation is a focal point, and time is the axiom in which time and space is that focal point. Am I saying that right? Like,
yeah, he's saying that Donald Hoffman is never going to be immortal because Donald Hoffman appears inside the is just an avatar. You know, Donald Hoffman, as we understand it, is that physical body as an avatar, and that would all just be sort of a construction. In what's really fundamental is the observer. So the observer is what he's talking about. You are and I am, but we're all the same observer, just expressed in different ways through different avatars or different interfaces. I think that's what he's saying. So in that case, I wouldn't say that the avatar is immortal.
yeah, no, the avatar. It's like I said with the pancake scenario. If I think of what I want to do and reflect on my own thoughts and then bring these thoughts into action, and I start making pancakes, the whole thing about me making pancakes is the manifestation of my thoughts. But that's the only thing that's happening within that, that focal point, right?
Yeah. And it changes all the time. So it's
the
like
pancake isn't actually me, right? It's a more like a creation of my thoughts or a manifestation of my thoughts.
Yep. And so, yeah, so, you know, the avatar is not going to be an immortal, real fundamental thing. It's just the consciousness or the observer. It's
Well, I
going to
would
be
still say it's a real thing, though, and that's where I don't agree with idealists. It's a real thing because once it, once the spin happens and the action, it definitely manifests as something real.
Right. I agree 100%. That's why I say it's all integrated. It's integrated, so it's all real because it's all integrated the same.
It may not be fundamental, but
right.
Because the pancake can't create itself, right? So my thoughts are fundamental that lead to the action of me creating the pancake.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. It's a good analogy.
That sounds stupid as hell, though. And the only reason I said pancake is because I made German pancakes today.
But it's it still works, though.
Whatever works.
Whatever works.
Can render a few choice bigger parts.
Hold on, let me back that up.
DMT.
That's right.
Wow.
He just dissed humans right there.
Well, we are very dissable. I gotta say.
Have you looked around lately?
we really are dissable.
Well, actually, I'll turn that around now. I'll say something about you and me. We are not our avatars. These bodies in three-dimensional space, one dimension of time. There's a Neil avatar, there's a Chuck, and then Don, and all these avatars are just avatars. You're not your avatar. This is just an avatar in the headset. So this is where it does sound spiritual. Now, whoever you are, whatever you are, it's not something inside space and time. Space and time is inside you. That's your creation on the fly. You're rendering your body. So my hand is something I render on the fly when I look at my hand. And with that, otherwise there is no hand. The hand is just a headset avatar representation.
Is there a way I can render a few choice bigger parts?
Well, DMT.
That's right, DMT. So I got to land this plane here. Let me ask you the ultimate
Scott,
skeptical question.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Now I think I get what he was saying when he said time and space is inside you. He's saying that, but I still think that's wrong because I think what he's saying is it's all happening within experience, and since we're all the same observer, it's time and space happening inside you. I mean, technically that's right, because if you observe your own thoughts inwardly, right? You turn inward and you observe your own thoughts, and then you find the focal point that you want to focus on, then yeah, that would happen within your own thoughts. Like, I guess it's true.
Right. That's exactly.
Say you come out with this account of all that your ambitions hold for you. What?
It doesn't sit well with us. Your hard-earned money sitting in traditional bank accounts, collecting.
Shut up. Shut up. Come on, let's get to the next commercial.
Damn, it's always two now.
I know, man.
Prediction can you make from that new formulation that will give confidence that the new formulation is real?
Well, of course,
because what you described, it sounds like you are in a position, you've constructed this literal matrix to account for everything. And is that any different from how the leopard got its spots? The Rudyard Kipling Just So stories.
Right.
I'm going to make an explanation, and that's how it got its spots, and here we are. I'm going to make an explanation, which is why you don't see this, and you make that, and we got a space-time here, and it collapses there, and we got relativity. Boom. Give me a prediction.
So the first thing we'll have to do is to first show that we can get, for example, all of special and general relativity and quantum field theory. We have to do that first, right? But then we can take the next step, which is to say, Einstein had to assume that the speed of light is the same in all inertial frames, and that nothing could go faster than the speed of light. That's an assumption. What if we can prove that? What if we can show from this deeper theory that it must be the case in your headset that the speed of light is the maximum speed? Now, all of a sudden, something that Einstein had to assume, we show follows from the theory of the observers.
That'd be a good one, by the way.
That would be one of my first ones that I want to go to. And I can give you a little hint as to where I think it's going to come from. It turns out in a Markov chain, there is something called a commute time, how quickly you can go from one observation to another. And there is a maximum commute time, a minimum commute time, and therefore a fastest transition. And it's something called cyclic Markov chains. And so the direction I'm going to be going is that because there is a maximum speed of transition in Markov chains, that's where the speed of light maximum is going to come from. So that will be a completely new
out of the construct.
New construct for it. Okay. But then that will just be the beginning, because then I want to, once we go into these higher dimensions, I can then start building technologies. Remember, my clock, if I have a bigger space-time than you, my clock is ticking a lot more than you. That means I can do miracles, right? Because for 2 ticks of your clock, I might have 1,000,000 ticks of my clock. So I can be doing all sorts of stuff. So this may be how I'll explain UAP kind of phenomena that seem to violate the laws of physics. They do violate our laws if you're stuck in our headset, but they may have a headset in which their clock is ticking 1,000,000 times to 1 tick of ours. And so what looks like instantaneous acceleration to us is for them a walk in the park.
Or just a fuzzy video artifact of a monochromatic data taking device. But okay.
That's right. Right.
One or the other. I got you. So it's the experience.
What's that?
Didn't the Bible say that 1,000 years is like 1 day to God?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
It kind of goes back to my Flash analogy. Like, Flash can do all these things, and it seems miraculous.
So that makes me wonder, right, about the whole conspiracy theory of the elitists. How is it that the average person doesn't think of stuff like the technology that's being developed? Why is it always like a select few? They obviously must have some serious fucking expanded minds to be able to come up with all that shit. So wouldn't that prove that we're purposely like kept in this like low awareness state? I mean, look at the like they said earlier, the effect that these algorithms have on people and how everyone's kind of socially engineered these algorithms. So wouldn't that suggest that our intuitive feeling that there's something wrong is possibly true?
Right, and I like what he's saying about the these UAPs. You know, everybody's talking about, and you know, maybe they're not aliens. Maybe they're just like you said. There's an elite group of people that have access to this technology that are able to pull this stuff off, make it look like aliens, make it look like all it really is just it's just advanced technology.
Yeah, but I think what he's also saying is it's a matter of perception. Like,
right.
There's a good analogy that I always use that I actually got from a movie. Can't remember the movie, but basically, if you take yourself, right, and your perception, and then let's say take a grasshopper. You and that grasshopper share the same space, but yet you experience two completely different dimensions. While you can see the totality of that grasshopper, the grasshopper sitting next to your shoe may just see a wall, right? And that grasshopper could only intuitively detect that there's something there, but it won't know what it is, right?
Exactly.
And so this is how I describe dimensions to myself, right? Not saying that's accurate or anything, but that's how I try to explain it to myself. So what he's saying, I think, is that there could be aliens, there could be all types of shit, but if it's outside of our perception, we just can't perceive it. And it's not necessarily alien or whatever. It could be right here in the same space, but yet we still wouldn't be able to perceive it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, even the grasshopper may be a totally different ontological thing than we think it is. And, you know, to the grasshopper, we could be maybe just out of his perception altogether, you know, because he's limited. He's too limited.
But I mean, if the grasshopper moves when you come close to it, then that makes me think it has some type of awareness of me. But because it's so small compared to me, there's no way it could perceive the whole of me. So what did it actually perceive? My foot that appears like a huge wall or whatever, you know? That's all I was saying. Regardless of whether it perceives anything or not, my point was that we share the same space, but we have a completely different experience. Two different dimensions, right? Your mic, Scott, your mic.
Oh, shit. I was just saying, yeah, that's right. I agree with you. Let me keep on going.
Of something that would be normal in their reference frame that to us looks extraordinary or even miraculous.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And there's another aspect of this that's really quite interesting. And if you think about it, I look around and I see an ant, and I ask myself, how much does the ant see about me? Wow. My feeling is probably nothing, almost nothing. It doesn't know anything about me. But then, and if you ask, okay, so how would it represent me? It might not even represent me at all, but if it does represent me, it's something trivial. Well, now turn it around. I see the ant as fairly trivial. Right. But remember, this is just a headset. The headset dumbs things down. It's quite possible that what I see as an ant, I'm actually, the reality that I'm interacting with is so transcendent, so much bigger than me, that if I can actually understand it, I would fall down speechless before it. But my headset turns it down into a tiny little ant.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying about the grasshopper, that we could probably be looking at the grasshopper like just a small little candy-ass little thing, but who knows? It may be just beyond the beyond, you know? You don't know that.
Well, you know, that makes me think, like, an ex-friend of mine who is schizophrenic swore up and down that something as small as a fly is staring back at him and has awareness of him. And he perceives a lot of things like that, and it makes me wonder if being schizophrenic is a certain kind of interface that, you know, kind of like we talked about mind expanders and DMT or whatever. If they have a different, like we know they have a different kind of perception, but it just makes me wonder now if what they perceive, if there's anything to that, or if it's just downright hallucinations, because he said something like that, like what we're talking about now, like how he said that ad could be something completely different or something way greater than what we think it is. But my friend, for example, swears up and down that that fly he was talking about looked dead at him and perceived him. And then there was like a mental communication between the two. And I was like, I mean, of course it sounds fucking crazy, right? But I mean, you never know.
Yeah, that's the whole point. This is the whole point about, that's what I mean about approaching things as scientists. Like, let's put away what we assume is crazy and stuff like that, just temporarily. Just see where it takes us, just to see what we can find out. That's the fun of it. That's the fun of life, man.
Yeah.
So this gives us a sort of a different way of looking at everything around us. What I'm seeing is my headset dumbed down representation of something that's not inside the headset. So it changes the whole game of how I look at the world. I see an ant and I have no idea what I'm really dealing with. All I know is my headset is so stupid that it's just showing me an ant. That's what I know.
So just touching on Darwin's theory, origins of species, etc., obviously pre-internet, pre-computers, are you kind of telling us that it is the most amazing theory and all it needed was mathematics to show how amazing it was?
Well, I think that Darwin's theory is brilliant, and evolutionary game theory, the mathematics, really brought out all the wonderful power of Darwin's theory. But now a step back, it's a theory that's sort of tied to our headset, right? Every scientific theory has its scope and also its limits. So I think inside the headset, Darwin is the best theory that we have for understanding biology inside of our headset. Once we get outside the headset, I will want to find a deeper theory and show how Darwin's theory is a special case of something far deeper. So, but that's going to be the fate.
Now you're getting greedy.
No, that's
Einstein wasn't good enough. You got to throw Darwin into the pot.
Right.
Science must always get to deeper theories. We always expect that our theories are just stepping stones. Right.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah, good way to put it.
Well, Professor Hoffman, this has been a delightful conversation. Thanks for giving us a peek into your madness.
You want to say that again?
Okay, sorry. Thanks for giving us a peek into your genius. How about that?
That's the same thing. They are the same thing.
They're the same thing.
Yeah.
There, or rather, a peek.
In life, we're all searching for things.
That laugh of his, goddamn.
Yeah. He does have a fucked up laugh. Wow. That's a trip.
Ah, shut the fuck up, Scott. I can't stop laughing. Please stop.
Oh man. But cool, man. That was kind of a that was good, man. I really like that interview though. That was very interesting. I'm really surprised it didn't get too cringy.
Oh my god. I really feel like I just hit the button and can't stop laughing. Man, that was funny as shit.
Yeah.
Oh god. Time to log off.
Yeah, it's time to go to bed. I'm on one right now.
Oh my gosh. Shit. Oh my head hurts. My ass hurts. That was a good show.
Yep. I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, so until next time, man, we're gonna log off and get to bed and figure out another one to do later on. I appreciate everybody for stopping through, having some content and some everything. That's what we do here.
Your mic.
My mic. I'm
logging off. Fuck all this shit. Bye.
My mic. We'll talk to you later.